doing and loving what you're doing. So trying to give yourself the space and time for that. And I would say this to a kid who's just starting flying, but also for any of the kids on this camp. Like, make sure that you're not going to burn out too quick, because a lot of these kids are like, they're still super young, and if at this point the joy is going to disappear from their flying, they're not going to be doing this when they're adults. They're going to find something else to do. So I think it's really important to make sure that it keeps making you happy.
I feel full of power when I work with kids, when I work with flyers and create some ideas. It's impressed me very well. This is about their relationship, about their different style, different art.
when I saw first time they're doing their thing, it was like super scary. I was like, how can they do that so like smooth and do all the tricks?
It's super exciting to be working with a dancer. Like I've never done it before. It's difficult to be synced together because not a lot of our moves are the same. Like spinning and flipping, they're gonna have to do something sort of like that. But my favorite part in our routine is when we're on the wall and like connecting and then flipping back.
In this space, we can fly. We can do trick. We can do move. Do it fast and do it smooth. When you learn new position, you fight with wind. Just fly, it's very easy. Yes, but I mean, to be in the top of flying, this is hard. Because if you want to be in the top of flying, you need to work a lot.
Flying is a new sport and new discipline. It's been like kind of developing so much during the past few years, and being a part of actually pushing a sport and creating a sport has been epic.
It's been really inspiring be in a part of this project.
It's just gonna take a lot of time and work, and kind of also the commitment that you get a group together, that the same people are gonna be working for the project for a long time. Then you can actually get somewhere with it.
Sokkal nehezebb egy táncossal dolgozni, mint egy olyan emberrel, aki bent van velem a szélcsatornában. Mert teljesen máshogy tudunk mozogni, és teljesen máshogy is mozgunk.
We have never flown together like other than having fun, so it's a new experience because we usually have different partners. So to be able to team up with each other is pretty fun.
It's really like there's so many different combinations of
Sport in this one.
The young generation of flyers are so talented, and it's so cool to see them as such a good group of friends. Competitive with each other, and then we get out and it's like we're family.
Táncosok, viszonyítási pontok a flyerekhez képest.
Csomó mindent szerintem meg lehet csinálni földön, amit a levegőben nem, és egy csomó mindent meg lehet csinálni a levegőben, amit a földön nem. És hogy valahogy ebben hogyan lehet olyan összhangot teremteni, az egy érdekes kérdés.
Technikailag egy nagyon komoly kihívással állunk szemben. Egy nagy plexihenger foglalja el a tér közepét, mert két oldalán fehér vásznak vannak kifeszítve, amire nagy fényerejű vetítés kerül. De most azt hiszem, hogy sikerült ezt megugranunk, és vissza tudjuk adni azt a látványt, amit egy néző átél, hogyha egy ilyen showra beül.
optimális esetben nem is kell hozzányúlni a számítógéphez, és magától repül az animáció és minden.
A forgatás az azért van, mert a szélcsatornákat a világon tulajdonképpen nem előadótérnek építették, hanem ezek egy sport dolgok. És jelen pillanatban nem tudunk leültetni százakat, ezreket, hogy megnézzék ezt élőben. Ezért úgy döntöttünk, hogy ezt az egészet, amit megálmodtunk, ezt filmre visszük. A Mad Company, hát az őrültek társasága olyan emberekből áll, akik úgy elengedték a valóságot, és úgy gondolták, hogy ők a repüléssel tudnak. A repülést tudják egy ilyen önkifejezési eszközként használni. Most amikor forgatunk, látom azt, hogy mi is vagyunk mi. És csodálatos élmény tudni azt, hogy ez tényleg mi vagyunk? Igen, mi vagyunk azok.
In the beginning is just to go and enjoy the experience. It's awesome and it's scary at the same time. Even if we are training these kids really, really proper and trying to teach them about the athletic side of things and competition and all of that, but eventually, like, you're only gonna get really far if you're really enjoying what you're doing and loving what you're doing. So trying to give yourself the space and time for that. And I would say this to a kid who's just starting flying, but also for any of the kids on this camp. Like, make sure that you're not going to burn out too quick. Because a lot of these kids are like, they're still super young. And if at this point the joy is going to disappear from their flying, they're not going to be doing this when they're adults. They're going to find something else to do. So I think it's really important to make sure that it keeps making you happy.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to get started, and more people will be joining us as we go. This panel is called Views on Competitions, and what we're going to try to do in this session is talk about, let's call it the programming that has been put into the tunnels that exist, and then also, in the case of Anton, what might be coming down the line.
Do we have to use those lights? Do we? Really?
Yeah, that's cool. Are you all right?
I think it's worth it.
Is it too bright? Okay. We'll have a number of videos for this. We do have on the slide,
Boris, this is gonna
we
go
don't have
viral.
Patrice
I get both.
on the slide, who is joining this one, because we think he would certainly be able to add something to it. But I will introduce the people that we do have on the slide. Anton Westman has joined us from Sweden. He is, a company's called Incline Labs. He'll explain to you more of what they do, but the idea is that it's a different kind of wind tunnel, and I'll leave you in suspense a little bit as to what that means. We had Paul Mayer on a panel this morning. Paul was one of the first people involved in the wind tunnel business in the UK. He's with Tunnel Instructor now. He was very involved with one of the events, which we'll be looking at in a few minutes. Boris Nebe, many of you know from ISG Group, one of the main operators in the wind tunnel space. And Boris, I think, will definitely have some views on competitions that he will be happy to share with us. Patrice, as I mentioned, Wayne Loxton, who we met this morning as well. Wayne from iFly, and we're happy to have him with us again. So thank you very much, gentlemen. What we're going to do with this panel is, I guess, let's not call it, we're not going to be the critics of the indoor skydiving world, but what we will do is look at some of the competitions that have been held. We'll be able to look at them in video, and then it'll be interesting to get your views, I think, on them as we go along, but also to get your views more generally on where you think the market is now, or the programming is now, the content is now that's being produced, and what you think is working, and what you think perhaps is not working as well as it could. So, I mean, let's try to be open and talk about where we go with those things. I think the best way to start is with a video, and then we can take it from there. If we look at the first one we have, Paul, this was your event, the Body Flight World Challenge. It was a couple of years ago in it's actually 2016 is now, it's 3+ years ago. State-of-the-art event at the time. I don't know if it still would be a state-of-the-art event, but maybe we'll hear. If we could roll that one, please, roll in the first video, the Body Flight World Challenge.
I believe I can fly. That's a fast competition. You're supposed supposed to sing.
Okay. Oh, here we go. Okay. Do we have sound rolling for this? Oh, okay, sorry. Okay, it will be coming up momentarily. In the meantime, the amount of material that's out there in the market, is there a lot that's being created, Boris, do you think? I mean, is there...
What do you say?
I mean, do you think that there is a sufficient amount of stuff that's being done?
Amount of stuff?
Of events and competitions?
Events.
Or do you think there's a shortage?
Well, and I think it has come a great way. You know, we all started doing our own little competitions, and now we're on a level that we have official. Do you hear that? Ooh. Okay.
You're mysterious.
Now we're on a level that we have official world championships and World Cups and European championships, and I think that's a big step forward in getting more attention on our sport from the normal world, because somehow they take things more serious when there's official championships. And I think for tunnels it's a great opportunity to do marketing and to really attract a lot of media, which always helps us to grow. And I think this is going the right direction. I think there should be more little competitions which have a lower entry level, you know, for recreational flyers that compete and that they have a more easy way. Not the first competition you attend is a national championship. That's always a bit weird. And so I think you know, it's also interesting for the tunnels itself to make small local competitions and create a base of flyers which finally will compete on bigger events and finally even first-class events maybe. So I think that's good, but it still needs to be continued. Yeah, but we are on the right way.
We ready to show the body flight?
We're having an audio problem here on this particular. Which one?
Body flight World Challenge.
No, we're having.
Okay, so let's go to the next one then, which is the FAI 2018 indoor in Bahrain. Yeah, and then we'll get back to Body Flight World Challenge, Paul. You were talking about official. We ready to go? You're talking about official. This is from the FAI, the Air Sports Federation, 2018 indoor in Bahrain. Excellent. So, what Patrice as a
just to point that the final girl with who was the winner in Bahrain is present somewhere here. He's around. So we have.
Oh, there you go. All right. Oh, well done. Thank you for that.
This was a World Cup. Well, if I have to start something, I said. The body will govern the World Championship and the first category event. We call that first category, and this is FI. Well, we as the French in 2013, we push a lot to put the body floor, indoor, whatever you call it, inside the system, just because all these competitors These incredible competitors, what they are doing must be recognized with a gold medal, a world champion gold medal, a World Cup winner gold medal, and this is how we start that. And we have been very lucky that owners and operators were courageous enough in the past to experiment competition and to see what's going on, and we have to be honest, we take the benefits of that. We have taken the experience and the benefits of that, what was working, what was not working. We may have some difficulties to understand each other, maybe sometime, but by the fact it's a fact that the rules are written, the judges are judging, and the competitors, they need to deserve a little bit more than a competition which know the final recognition, which is the World Championship title. This is also in this perspective we have tried to be a little bit we have tried to go further with the Olympic dreams in brackets, even if we have not to forget the dreams on the side, which is still a dream. But yes, I think it's very important that this cycle of first category event is still working. On the other side, we need a lot of other competition. Maybe, what it was already said, the grassroots competition, maybe intermediate competition. I will take an example in another event from outdoor. We have an accuracy, a team accuracy, managed by under the name of Para World Cup. They have a memorandum of understanding with the FI, and they are doing tournaments with 6 different drop zones, which is very popular within the family in accuracy. So it shows us that a lot of other things are on the side and could be experimented as well.
You know, the question was asked this morning, looking at that, I mean, it looks fantastic. You see what the people are doing. I mean, for someone who knows nothing about it, it's certainly eye-catching. They go, it's spectacular. And I've shown it to people who've never seen it before. They go, wow. But the question that was asked was, do you know what's going on? Do you, as a layman, or do people who are outside know what's being done? And do you think, I mean, Wayne, for example, do you think that a sufficiently strong job is being done at events or in terms of promotion to make people aware of what these competitions, what they entail, how difficult they are? I mean, the reality of it is, I hate to put it this way, but the reality of it is that it looks like, oh, they're just up there flying through the air. When we know that's not what it is. It's a lot more difficult than that, and a lot more technical than that.
Yeah, I think we touched upon it earlier. The tunnels do a great job. You know, the people that are involved with it do a really good job. But it's like the Golf Channel. Only golfers watch it. Yep. And it's really good for our community. The live streams are really good for our community. And they do a really good job what they do with the expert panelists and the presenters. And it was touched upon earlier that the challenge is the next step. I think Patrice and I have sat in meetings in Lausanne where we very clearly, very quickly understood that it is about creating spectators. And I think somebody mentioned it earlier as well. Create the spectator, create the hero, create the audience, and that brings money, that brings sponsorships, etc., etc. And that's the challenge we have. We're operating at a level that's serving our community at the elite level quite well, in fact, very well. But it's the others, that other untapped 80% of the people that fly in our tunnels.
You said spectators. Anton, you were mentioning before, remember when we were talking, you said, how about the facility in which people are able to watch the event? You had some comments on that?
Well, most of the questions actually. Well, suppose it works. Suppose we made it to the Olympics or something similar. What would the optimal arena look like? For instance, if you look at the bid for the 2024 video, fantastic tunnel, fantastic stuff being done, but even in that video, you just see those few people sitting around. So how can you create an actual sports arena? The Super Bowl, as you mentioned earlier, I mean, it's based on a Roman amphitheater arena kind of event.
Yeah, and that would be a consideration, no?
Yeah, that's doable with the right investment, because we've considered about how we can do that for LA. And one of the criteria for an Olympic event of that kind is the sustainability of the operation. You can't build something that's going to be a white elephant later on. But actually, it's quite simple to build a tube inside a hangar. And then there are professional companies out there, they call it overlay, and it's the same companies that go from games to games to games, They build the venue, then they do the overlay to make it an Olympic venue. You then strip that down and then you build your business after the event. So that's doable. It's just finding the right market and the right investment to then make that. Because in terms of spectators, you probably only need 5,000-10,000 people. That's really simple in a hangar, because some sports in the Olympic Games probably attract 3,000 or 4,000 spectators at once. So that's all doable. That's just what's the right time, where's the right location. As Simon says, building a tunnel is about 3 things: location, location, location. And then, so all that is doable. I'm repeating myself.
If we could go back, just take a step back to Patrice, when you put the proposal forward for 2024, when there was an idea that you could have this in the games, did you get into these, or did you get into the specifics of what the competition would be?
Of
I mean,
course.
how much?
Of course we did.
No.
No,
Yeah.
of course, because early during the session I said we start from a blank page, which is mean that which requirement they want, what they want from us. So they went back the previous application for Rio and for Tokyo. There was value to respect. There were some topics to fill, but suddenly the rules coming from the OCOG and the IOCs, they change. They change the way how they are going to go to the international federation. So we start from that to see if we can fulfill the IOC requirement. On the other side, at the internal in the internal community, because there is in a short time you need to decide which kind of product you are selling to them, which kind of real event. You cannot say only one. You let the people make the choice between 3-4 different events, and it was really complicated because we have not, in the past, we have not created a product media friendly for the IOC or bankable for the IOC. We needed to think about that, and our perspective was, well, if we can put the foot on the door and enter in the system, then we will deal with them which kind of event we can build all together, which is another, it's another bargain because we didn't have any idea on that. But on the other side, we knew that the technology is coming. The technology is coming, like Wayne said. I mean, we were talking about transportable wind tunnel. If you put 2, 3, 4 transportable wind tunnel in a place, in a stadium for BMX, for example, which is a small stadium, or for fencing, or for another small event, I mean small in brackets, of course, 5,000 spectators. If you put it on the middle, then you have the place also, which for the organizer will cost less money in terms of infrastructure. Like in Paris, in La Villette, you have the fixed tunnel, but outside you have a huge place where you can put also other transportable tunnel and create a synergy between all that. We knew that the tool is very close to be in our hands, but you need to open the door. It's like the egg and the chicken we're starting. Now for Los Angeles, maybe with the income we are able to give to them. I don't know which body is going to govern that in USA, of course. But by the way, we have learned about that. We must be ready to be very flexible. At our school, of course, we need also to think about and to listen when we have a partnership with a company, their wish as well. We have to work on that. But the tool is existing.
So, but the basic structure of the competition, would it likely be something similar to?
I never said that.
No.
I never said that.
No, okay.
I say that what are our products? Our products is the belly flap, so formation skydiving, the solo, the team, so dynamic in teams, solo in freestyle. But well, we are able also to imagine another event. Why not mix? Look the Climbing Federation. They were obligated to create a product. There was opposition within the federation. There was some contradiction as well. And then they create a new product which was not existing before, or it was not exactly under this form. So they were facing the reality, do we want to be in or do we want to be out? if the door was open for the Olympics, probably we were all together around the table and say, okay, we cannot promote only dynamic, we cannot promote only freestyle, we need to create something. And then it would be under our responsibility to offer probably a new event. I'm a dreamer, I don't know which kind of event, of course, but probably I'm more in favor of an event where, to answer your question, more understandable. Everybody understands when there is a winner and when there is a loser. You understand what I mean? A battle, it's easier to understand rather than a number of points in a huge number of points in a certain time.
Judged events. I mean, we know from the past with Olympic history, with judged events, some of which are very popular. I mean, obviously, figure skating is in the Winter Olympics, one of the most popular things they have, but it's judged. Of course, there's excitement in that as well, but it's very esoteric to understand what the judging is. Although the commentators have become better, I still don't understand half the stuff they're saying. Gymnastics, very difficult, I think, to understand the judging in that sometimes. People are accustomed to seeing judged events in those sports, but I mean, would we necessarily see something that's judged? Does that have to be what it is? Well, as you said, maybe not. Maybe race, who knows? Paul, what do you think?
I think the format would probably have to change from what it has been in the past. And the elements that I think are important when it comes to the format are that it has to be identifiable who the winner is at the end of it, or how well somebody did at the end of each event. So, for example, with the four-way, we tried for a number of years to see if we could get to a point where you literally walk out the tunnel and see your score as you've done it. I think at the Win Games they've tried the same sort of thing a little bit more quickly. It's quite difficult in that format to do that. Same with the dynamic stuff. The event that probably works the best in that way is kind of like the speed rounds, where they go in, they have to do a certain number of things, they get out, and at the end of it you've got a time, which makes for better programming, makes for better visuals for the people that aren't experienced in the sport to identify what's happened.
We do have some good video from the Win Games in 2019, which we will now show. And I don't want to get too much into the subject matter of the next panel, which Anne is going to be steering, which is going to be talking about future formats and evolution of formats. But we'd like to show the video now, David, if we can, of Win Games 2019, which took place here.
8 a.m. in the beautiful Bay of Roses. I'm Puria Brava here at Window Real Fly, and it's time for Win Games 2019.
So many incredible young flyers bringing talent and skill to this competition.
The tunnel is ready, the athletes are prepped.
We have the new discipline of the relay races.
And the best flyers in the world are here right now. Look at the face of concentration. Catherine Anderson says goal, NFTO. Yes.
And in the first place from France, Team Wimmy.
But up next, the FS.
Okay, awesome. The Sky Riders are ready to go in. The Italian team was leading. Awesome. First place, Italia won. Congratulations, guys. Eyes down now. Team from the USA, Arizona Airspeed. Solid team to watch.
Well done, Airspeed.
And now Wimby High Rollers. They don't leave much lying around. They really are powering through every round. Lots of energy and dealing with it. Very fast round. Very nice job. And now, ladies and gentlemen, Hayabusa. You are watching a world record happen right now. We don't win on one round. We win on our accumulated score.
Well done.
What a team, ladies and gentlemen. Congratulations.
Oh, Hayabusa, let's hear it. Freestyle Junior.
Wow.
He is on fire this evening.
Nice control.
And the Junior Freestyle Champion 2019 is...
King Abawa! First place is, we've just seen her fly, it's Kaylee Wittenberg from the USA taking the gold medal in Freestyle Open. How many medals this girl is going to accumulate over this competition?
14-year-old Kaylee Wittenberg.
Andrzej from Poland.
Last year's gold medal. Cesaro Rico.
Visor is down.
It's serious.
He is in. This is the final of solo speed, and that gold medal is in his clutches.
The champion of solo speed is Andrzej two-way dynamic is... Let's go to the window, come on guys, these are the champions!
He's been flying phenomenally fast. What is his secret?
Bit of a tumble coming out through the door, Emma.
So Josh is hurt. He has hurt his ankle, but he does plan to fly again because it's Josh O'Donoghue and he's an absolute trooper. Josh has got the thumbs up. This is the final round.
And it's thumbs up from the driver. Now the fantastic four in the door, Emma.
These are 4 incredibly fast flyers.
Oh! Bust on the door.
Oh, that was definitely a bust. This is Ninja Spire. This is the 4th speed. Looking incredible.
And the winner is...
Ninja Spire!
Ninja Spire! We are good to go with the last flight and race of the championships for 2019. Relay racing for Win Games.
This is Elliot, Matteo, Noah, Kaylee. France and the USA come together.
Hit that button. There it is.
Next up is going to be the Misfits.
It's absolutely electric. The crowd are going crazy, Emma. Ladies and gentlemen, Danny Gallego, Nishan Chi, Cesar Rico, here above. 3, 2, 1, go. The winner of the first ever relay race at Win Games is...
The Fantastic Four! What an honour, what a privilege to be here at the Win Games 2019.
Thank you for that. Win Games, of course. An event which takes place just up the road from here, and I think many of us have been over there in the last couple of days. Very well produced and a very well produced video. Bruno, looking at that, is that the sort?
Bruno now.
I know you had your shades on, but is that the sort of?
Do
you like that? I mean, Boris. Boris. Well, you look like Bruno with the sunglasses on. Sorry, it was the sunglasses and the chain.
Can I call you Dick?
Boris.
Yes.
What is your take on that? Did you like the look of that? Do you think that's where we should be in the
video?
future? Not just the video.
I think in general, Window is doing awesome marketing and really awesome content all the time. I like their approach on that, and I think this is, for now, until we have found the investors to build those big stadiums all over and to create all those arenas, I think the chance right now is to create really good content and to spread it out on social media. And I mean, we have reached a level of quite high professional live streams. And, we started doing first live stream of a competition in Bottrop when we did the battle. And what they do nowadays is way ahead. I mean, they have a full studio and they have multiple cameras, and this creates all this eye candy, which will finally attract normal people and make them look onto our sport. I saw in a big airport in Germany, they had a video from your World Championship in Lille for a month. They had that on those big TVs, always in between the news. And just because it's beautiful to watch and it's eye candy, and if we focus on spreading this out more, I think this will reach, for now, with our limited possibilities, much more people and will attract more people and eventually maybe even more sponsors into the sport.
Is the current environment, Wayne, and I think everyone would have a view on this, is it quite fragmented? I mean, I'm wondering whether, if you want to have a broadcaster that's interested in this, a broadcaster rather than live streaming, but a broadcaster, I think the normal desire is to have something that's got some continuity and and a sufficient volume of content. Do you think that's there now?
No, it's not connected in any way whatsoever. It's down to the Anna runs the Win Games, has been doing it for many years, and it's a product, and they've now got something that works for them. But that's down to the investment that its specific tunnel chooses to put into that event. Same with Bedford. It's how much effort they put in as an individual. We're not a community that's joined together to do that in a collective.
The thing that's interesting about what you said there was for a broadcaster to take And for me, there's a few elements that the Wing Games have started to do which make it more appealing for a broadcaster. Like, if you're watching a competition, you want to see how quickly someone does something, you want to see the wins and the fails, you want to see the busts and the red lights and the suspense of, are they going to do it, aren't they going to do it, you know, and see that competition table progress, which traditionally in our old format competitions didn't used to happen. So I think if with the right production crew and those right elements put into the format of the competition, it could change quite a bit. But what we have at the moment with a little bit of the artistic and a little bit of the four-way doesn't really lend itself to broadcast. We actually did broadcast one of the first years of the challenge with Trans World Sport. Right. So it was kind of a big output opportunity, and they condensed it into a sort of 15-minute mini competition overview, but they couldn't get that head-to-head excitement from it.
Right. Do we have that one, by the way, yet, Roland? The Body Flight Challenge, or we're not going to do that? The Body Flight, is that video? Is the sound just doesn't work? It's a corrupt file. Oh, corrupt file. Oh, that's a drag. I'm sorry for that.
Just be clear, I didn't give you this file. Wherever you took it from. I don't know.
No, but what you said, the reason I mentioned broadcast is because we know about live streaming, we know about all the things that you can do through social and everything else, but the reality of it is still today, you know, having a broadcast product is helpful for anything that's trying to get some traction. And so, I mean, you answered the question there. It's having something, and also being able to build something that is going to have consistency, so that the viewers know, you know, that they're going to get that kind of quality and they're going to understand what it is. Which it seems to be close. Wayne, what do you think? I mean,
I'm going to disagree. I don't think it is close.
All right.
I think it's great for the community, and I'm going to go back to that again. It's great because we get it, and we embrace it. And you know, we're an easy audience to please because we want it to succeed, and it's working for us. I show it to my two boys who are 22 and 24. I am that old. They don't get it. They'll watch it for 10 minutes and I'll say, yeah, it's really cool, Dad. And then they'll go back on their Xbox. And that's what we've got to try and unlock. How do we get to that audience? How do we create the spectator that then creates the hero, that creates the athlete, and the athletes the ones that benefit? And I think we do a really good job inside our community. And so I'm probably going to say no, we don't. But doesn't mean to say we can't. And I think we've focused a lot on the elite level. And I think what we should be doing now is, the elite athletes out there that are out there, and we as organisers, really need to be focusing on the kids. I think the climbers talked about, it's all about the kids. Look at the superstars right now, 12-year-old, 14-year-old, 15-year-old. You know, there are 9-year-olds out there ripping it up. And so let's invest in those. And I think we probably don't know what the most successful event is going to be because it might not exist yet.
Yes. I think that's a very good point. I appreciate.
So if we invest on our youth, on our juniors, and the people who have only just started flying and who choose it as their sport, then I think that's a better thing for us to focus on right now.
You know, your experience of showing it and having them say, oh, you know, that's cool. And then I've had exactly the same experience showing some of these things and people looking and go, wow, that's terrific. But, you know, then it's taking it to the next level. And also being able to anticipate what's coming is not an easy thing. Federations are often not the best at that either. But you did set us up very nicely for another video, which is Roland, the video of the interview that you did day before yesterday. The interview you did day before yesterday.
With Chloe.
Yeah, this is great. This was done over at the Wing Games on Friday that Roland did with a young person there. 7 years old.
veig el cel, que m'encanta. No vaig veure molt el cel perquè ja era quasi les 7 quan vaig fer-ho. I em va encantar, em va donar cosa així. Però em va encantar. I després vaig dir, papa, vull fer-ho un altre cop. I ho vaig fer amb el papa. El que m'agrada més és volar en el túnel, sí. Perquè no em fa coseta, però aquí em fa coseta i després em marejo. M'ha encantat tot el que he fet allà. A la primera no m'ha sortit tan bé perquè he plorat una miqueta i després a la segona ho he fet bé. Avui ha sigut més difícil que demà, segur. Perquè me l'he après més a l'exercici. Me l'he après més el de demà que el d'avui. No sabem què guanyarem, no sé. Encara no sé. Espero que siguin xutxes. El meu entrenador em diu tens que fer això, això, això i això. Cada dia. És en anglès i significa que he nascut per volar en el túnel del vent.
Was good. We have the generation, of course, we always say digital natives now, and this is not the first generation of digital natives. I don't think we're way down, and it's amazing what the change has been, and we've all seen it in the way young people relate to their digital lives and the way they go about things. So now maybe we have the wind tunnel natives emerging, people who, if they are starting at a young age, they're going to develop their own ways, perhaps, of wanting to compete. And
in Germany, we say, children mouth always tells the truth. Did she say indoor is better than? No, I think she said that right.
Yep.
I don't know. It was just a joke. I like to see that now kids are taking it really professional, and this also will, as you just said, lead to more professional competition environment. But until those kids are really professional athletes and really competing on a level that they really can compete with the people who learned it the old school way, I would say, who skydived and worked really hard to develop their skills. I think this will still take quite some time, and for now we should more focus on what we do now to make it big, not what will happen in some years in the future. And I think an easier entry level, more smaller competitions, and more and better social media coverage is probably one good thing to do right now and worth to focus on.
Anton, I haven't asked you because I said we were going to talk about your different kind of tunnel. If you could tell us a bit about what it is that you're doing, and you have a competition strategy, and you're doing some things in other sports as well, but maybe we can touch on that, but that's not the main thrust here. Ante, where's the facility in Sweden?
It's in Stockholm. I think that I should not talk much or long since I represent the newest and smallest aspect of indoor skydiving. But basically what we've done is that we've built a big inclined wind tunnel that stands at an angle to the horizon. The airspeed is variable, of course, but so is the inclination. It stands on huge, powerful, and quite fast hydraulics. So this means that you can change the airspeed and you can change the angle. And the effect of that, are you hearing me? Yep. In the back? Yeah, thank you. And the effect of this is that anything that can fly in this. You just choose the right airspeed and choose the right angle, and then you can fly, whatever you like. And what we've been using it mostly for so far is indoor wingsuit flying. And we've been having competitions in it for about 3 years. A big international unofficial World Championships that is organized by Jarno Kordia. And then we're having quite a few club competitions. Like Mr. Ward was talking about earlier, we're trying to sort of build grassroots. So far we're so new, so it's going so-so, but we're trying. And we also had official Swedish nationals. It's an official recognized sport within the Swedish Sports Federation already. We've been developing this in cooperation with the FAI. What I think that we can bring to this summit is perhaps a bit of diversity. We're so new, so we don't really have much to show yet. And my main questions to the summit that I hope to take back are regarding competition formats. We've tried various competition formats. Most of them didn't turn out very well. You mentioned the NBA earlier. We tried indoor wingsuit basketball. It was fun to try to develop it, but it wasn't a big hit. We had hula hoops in the front net, and yeah, bad idea. Lots of bad ideas. The most mature form we have is indoor acro. We zeroed out the artistic from outdoors. It's basically FS. It's basically two-way FS indoor. And that is very popular with the athletes. But I suppose this is on the internet. I hope no one is listening. I'm not sure if it would be a very good Olympic format because it still has that basic problem, who is winning, and yeah, same as everyone else. That's it.
Can I
Go ahead, Wayne. Yes,
can I touch on two-way FS? Probably because it's the only thing I can do. That's really important. We talk about the lower level competitions and about accessible competitions, your local meets, your events. Those things are vital to the success of our industry and of our sport. And making those two-way FS events, globalizing them, getting as many people as possible doing it is really important. And those accessible level competitions, because it all starts with belly flying. You know, that's a safety thing. It has to start with belly flying. Well, I'm saying it has to. In the future, it may not. But that level of competition is really, really important to what we're talking about here. And those low-level meets, those flight schools, connecting the flight schools together, connecting tunnels together where that's digitally. It doesn't have to be at the same venue. You can have a competition, as we've done with the Global Kids competition. That offers its own challenges. But you can do that. And that level of competition, as you talked about, Boris, is really important. So we shouldn't lose sight. We're focusing very much on the elite athlete, but the elite athlete is going to come from somebody who's just done the two-way FS somewhere along the way.
And it has to do, I think, with establishing the authenticity of what you're doing and the legitimacy of your competitions. If there is a perception on the part of the audience that the people have actually come up from somewhere and they've actually had to go up and win at various levels where they don't have the impression, oh, this was invented, there they are, and these are the winners.
It has to be accessible.
Yeah.
If it's impossible to do, they won't come back.
Yeah.
I think the climbers talked about that earlier as well. Make it accessible, then make them want to come back. The sport for us is a shop window in many ways, and inspire them to want to go and fly, and then they'll go on their own journey. And do you know what? It doesn't matter if they only ever do two-way FS, as long as they're having fun and they're flying.
Well, I'd like to remind the delegates here that we're eager to have your questions. If anyone has a question, please put your hand up, and come on up here and brave the camera here. Any volunteers? Here's one. Wait. No. You've got to do it. You've got to do it right now. Yeah. You have to do it. All right. So there it is. You take that. You look in there.
I look in there. Okay. Yeah. I only want to add something about the question where it was said about how to get broadcast time. It's one of the things what we start to realize and to learn, that it was what Simon said about locations. Before, our big championships were everywhere in the world, on very strange places, almost not accessible. But we start to realize that to have a championship in a country where a possible medal winner is, you get much more visibility of the television. So it starts with the location and possible winners. So it will help. Think about it.
We do.
Thank you for that comment. Reaction to that about local interest, Patrice?
We do. We do. We are interested in the location and also we are not really interested if there is a location not connected with athletes. And if they have no grassroots athletes, they have no potential winner, we get less interest on that, because it's also very important that behind the scene of the competition itself, something happened. I'm coming from the outdoors. This is also what we try to promote. When in the past we did big competition, multiple events in a place where nothing happened after, well, we failed. That's it. We are not good enough to promote what we wanted to promote through the competition. So it's also one of the topics who makes the difference when there is a different application with different bidders. But talking about the format, well, we have to be honest. We do know the community. We do not share too much each other. I mean, for example, nobody forbid that if you try to make a competition, a 2-way, 3-way, whatever you want, you create rules. You create a panel of judges, even one judge, whatever. But we don't see any report about that. We don't see any short report about it. We have experimented this way. It was successful. It was not successful. Make reference about our conversation with Anne. When you try something, sometimes you fail, but you don't fail. You learn. You learn that the next time you will probably change and adapt it and correct it and have other inputs. Well, are we sharing all that? No, I'm sorry, we are not. We are just sharing through the social media, and we have never the complete picture. What is the complete picture? You make a competition, then you have a set of rules. You have to market this competition. You did the competition, you broadcast the competition, so you have footage about that. You have a judge report, for example, and then at the end, we have a complete picture. Yes, this could be exported to another one. Why not? With some adaptation. We are not doing that. This is facing the reality. I'm blaming myself as well. Everybody can try to create a competition and send the format and say this format could be adapted. Not just just a concrete folder with the complete from the beginning to the end, which is a report with some footage. That's open to everybody to do that. And to go over and to say, this is working in our country.
Well, that's it. Yes, Anton.
I have a follow-up question to Mr. Loxton. So, suppose hypothetically that 2028 would work. The way you envision the arena then is that you take a huge existing hangar somewhere in Southern California, and inside of it you build something that looks like a sumo arena, that you have a small actual play or competing ground in the middle with a huge vertical, and then just rising rows of an amphitheater for 5,000 or 10,000 people.
In principle, yes. It's just it's a hangar you can build.
Yeah, okay.
It's achievable. We've looked at it.
Yeah, okay.
And the overlay companies that I mentioned earlier, that's what they do for a lot of these. You look at all the Olympic venues that are out there that are then modified post the event because they have to be sustainable. That's one of the conditions of having Olympic Games.
Yeah.
So it's simple to do.
Or the temporary ones, like for beach volleyball. Beach volleyball is a temporary...
well, the Horse Guards Parade in London was made into a beach volleyball court. Yeah. It's anything's achievable with a bit of imagination. But that's for the elite level. I'm not sure that as an industry we're ever going to get to a point of building venue tunnels. We may do. But ultimately they have to be affordable. And that's a challenge.
One of the things I hear from, I think the main thing I hear from this session is that there is a perception that there needs to be an accessible level of competition that would be across the sport, so people can, so it can build up from the grassroots. So somehow that's going to be will that where will that emerge from? How will that be done? Ideas of how will that be driven? How will it?
Well,
This is for us.
This is it. We drive it. That's our job. That's what fills our tunnels.
We do. Sorry. Yes, by all means, Anne, because you'll be taking over from here. So we're going to finish in just a minute, and I'll hand it over to you.
I wasn't expecting that. I just wanted to address a couple of things that just came up on the panel. We were talking about how there's various different people's opinions that the sport's not really that accessible to people from the outside, and that it's difficult to explain, and that right now people are not that interested in it. The second year that we did Freestyle to Music, I just wanted to give you guys some statistics just because I've been involved in the Win Games for a long time. And the second time we did Win Games to Music, on the third day after the Win Games, we were contacted by Reuters, the international news agency, to tell us that we were in the top 25 news stories in the world. We had 500 million people who had interacted on social media, and the athletes that had been involved in that Win Games were picked up by sponsors outside of the sport. Samsung, the international face of tourism for Singapore, Google. So these are sponsors outside the sport, but one small tunnel can't drag the industry forward. So you can't expect anybody to understand your sport if you only have one event a year. So here we have a lot of manufacturers who are people who are invested. We've got technology owners. If one small tunnel can make this difference, if all of you were also involved, perhaps we could have 6 more big competitions a year and people would start to understand our sport. So you can't just expect. Look at Paul, what he's done with the challenge. Boris did the Battle of Bottrop and did a big movement with dynamic flying with that. But we have to have investment, and we have to have people believing that this is what we can do, because look at what's happening. 500 million people watching. These athletes being picked up by outside companies. We're just generating the beginning, and it's all being done while one small tunnel. If you pick up the momentum and you take it and you run with it, we can keep this moving and we can make it grow. Television companies are interested. We have to believe they are, because they're watching. They're contacting the Win Games. 25 in the world is amazing. So I don't like to hear people saying nobody's interested, nobody's watching. They are watching. 3 days ago, there were 250,000 people on the live stream. This is a competition live stream. 250,000 people. So we do have interest, and I would just like to ask the technologies and the operators, how are you going to help?
Very good.
Next year you should sit here.
That was a question. That was a question.
That was a question. Really good question. What was the question? I didn't really get what the question was, actually.
Can I? Yeah.
What was the question? It was a long question.
Yes, it was a long question. How can you help?
How can I help?
One small tunnel can't do
well,
it.
in general, it's a great opportunity for a wind tunnel to host a small competition, but it costs a lot of money. And a wind tunnel also is always, of course, a business. And a competition is a big investment for a small company like that. And you get a lot of media feedback as a trade-off, so you get some marketing kickback. And, when you do it right, then it for sure can help to create value and to create, or to make those competitions also interesting for people, because it's a very good way, if you do it right, to make marketing. When I did the first nationals in Germany, it cost me about 30,000 euros to organize it. but I was 5 times on TV. I had the head page of the biggest newspaper, and it created a lot of social content which we used for month and month, and this is something which every tunnel can do, and which for every tunnel makes sense, and then we maybe get more tunnels interested, if they understand that, into investing into competitions, and that will also help the competitors and help the sport grow. So, I think it's about learning how to use also those beautiful events to create attention, to do marketing. And best thing what we have, I said it before, and you just said it again, is social media. I mean, those numbers are impressive from the Wind Games, and I'm sure there's still more possible. And if we could reach millions of people with those live streams, and I think that's interesting.
Paul.
Yeah, I think Anne's point there is really demonstrating that there's such an opportunity with the scale of interest that there is undeniable with what we've done so far, that it's well received by people watching. However, the number of competitors is nowhere near on the scale that it needs to be. And how do we get the hundreds and thousands and millions of people that are flying each year into a competitive arena rather than just a handful at 1 or 2 events? And then also putting it into a format that makes it appealing for people of different levels to be able to compete in, not just the ones that can do the rock star moves and, 20 or 30 of them once a year get together to create a spectacle, but actually create a competition which is both multi-leveled with large number of participants, a real sports-size arena, and with programming and output that's interesting to watch, not just the 3-minute clip on Facebook and YouTube that's like, wow, that was impressive, I'll share that with my friends, to actually this is I'm rooting for that person to win, or didn't our country do well, or that kind of competition level. So I think that's where groups as a whole, and a little bit with Dynamic, the competitors kind of did that themselves. The people that are doing the flying created an event based on what they wanted to do and how it worked, and that created one of the more exciting elements of the competition. So coming up with those formats, I think, is going to be the key, and making sure it can be grassroots delivered.
Yeah, Anton.
Well, I don't know if my answers are of any great interest since we're so small, but one way I think that we can be of some help in what you bring up is in our future constructions and designs, the way we design hardware. This is partly why I'm interested in how to create an arena. Almost everything that we've done in the past few years has been just a book full of blank pages, and we just scribble a little bit on the top of each page. So these kind of philosophies, if I call them so, are somewhat unknown to us. So if we learn this, then maybe the next tunnels that we design can be designed from the start to facilitate these kind of things. That's a very non-exact answer, but I hope you get what I mean. For instance, if you have, the one we have now just rises through 3 stores, leaning through a whole huge building. And we started with an existing building. It was same as Paul, an old military facility we rebuilt. But we actually tried to change the floors and build new floors to make it accessible to spectators. So we can actually have quite a lot of spectators that can be on different levels and following it. And this is a refit. So if we start from a green field, then maybe we can do something that cater much more to these things, if you understand what I mean.
Thank you for that view, Wayne.
I don't want to dodge that. So Anne will never forgive me unless I say something. We agree with you entirely, and I think this is what this forum is all about, because we want to go beyond that one shot that you guys have done a fantastic job with, and we go beyond the one shot by all the things that we've discussed here, and I think that's how we as a group can start working together and can start helping. But we've got to choose to do so first, and I think that's the first step. We have to make that choice as a collective.
Well, I'm glad we're getting some interest from the audience and some interaction. If this lady would like to come up, and please say who, identify yourself, and if you could speak into our non-roving eye there.
Okay.
The static eye.
I'm Gillian Rayner. I'm president of the International Skydiving Commission, which is part of the Fédération Aéronautique Internationale. And Boris said earlier on in this presentation that the World Championships and the World Cup was something that were very positive to the sport. It gives you something to aim for. And I've listened today to iFly saying that they want to get back to the grassroots and start competition from a very early level. But when you start competition at a very early level, you've got to have something to aim for. You have to have a long-term objective. And that long-term objective has to be World Championships and World Cups. And again, to take over what Anne has just said, what are you, the manufacturers, going to do about that? Because whereas to begin with, when we first started World Championships, we had lots of bidders to host these championships. And unfortunately, that's drying up. We'd really like to expand the World Championships, move more out into the world, not just stay in Europe. But we need to have bidders. We need to have people who want to invest and host those competitions, to give our sport the visibility, to show what the sport really can be at a World Championship level. So I look to you for support of what's being done. We're open to evolve the disciplines, to make the sport more user-friendly, listen to the athletes, listen to what is needed to make our sport interesting to the World Games or to the IOC. But we need a forum to do it, and for that we need bidders to host our competitions. Thank you.
Well,
Thank you for that.
Okay.
Boris?
Yeah. That's true, but it's not the manufacturers who should bid for those competitions. It's tunnel operators.
Of course, yes.
And I think one problem is it's always easier to find somebody who wants to organize a World Championship, World Cup, rather than a World Championship, because you get much more teams, and then it's easier for the tunnel to run it economically. And I think that's one big border which keeps tunnels from betting for those World Championships. You don't get enough teams. So for World Cups, it's always easy to find one. So maybe thinking outside this box and opening up those competitions and just doing it bigger might be a chance, and also creating lower entry levels. I mean, we once started with the four-way dynamic, now it's two-way, and now it's solo speed, and I think that's awesome, because solo speed, even my mother understands what's going on when she watches it, because it's fast. I mean, you only have to watch one, and they all do kind of the same, and you can watch the time in the end. So, and that's much more easy to understand and easy to watch than four-way dynamic. And so maybe thinking about lower entry levels and opening up competitions to more competitors, that eventually it's less of an economical risk for a tunnel, which in the end is a small company to organize those events.
Two more, and that's it. Then we'll turn things over to the next panel.
I'd like to answer that one, just because I've been an operator and a competition organizer. And I can see the internal battle that goes on with the financial side of operating competition and the motivational side. Now, in response to the question, I think the grassroots and the something to aim for go hand in hand. As an operator, I'd be far more inclined to host a competition, because let's face it, if you host a competition, you're not making money from it. It's an event that takes a lot of work to do, and the entry fees that the competitors paid doesn't even pay for the lost time that you've not sold to the general public. It really is a case of it's not, you're not doing it for a business motivation. However, you might be motivated to do that if on the back of it you had a whole stream of first-time flyers that were converting into regular, participating, multi-level training customers, which doesn't really happen a lot at the moment. You've got this gulf between the beginners and the experienced competitors, which isn't broadly filled. So I think the grassroots is key to creating competition and volume of competitors. You really need that volume of competitors training to then justify putting on spectacle events that that you see at the Win Games, or as we did with the Challenge. Because we did it not because it was a financially great thing to do. Other motivators.
Patrice.
It's an idea which is spread by a lot of people and coming from a long time, 2-3 years, maybe more, but it's not. It's never happened for probably business reasons. I'm not a businessman. I'm not involved in any tunnel. I'm just sometimes handling organization. But going outside and seeing how the other sports they develop, how the system they develop, well, I'm sure that the FI as a body is ready to negotiate with any organizer who want to create a tournament, a worldwide tournament. You are talking about league 1 or 2 days ago. Who is going to start the league? Are we going to wait that everything is reached, the marketing, the business, the media coverage and all that to start? Or are we going to start and to see what's going on with other tunnel who have already a good knowledge about broadcasting, a good knowledge about how to manage the registration and a good knowledge about how to spread that around the world? I'm sure the international body is ready to negotiate with that. Look at the league in soccer, the European Cup, soccer, it's teams against teams. That's it. Why we have not the AGS professional team against the Botrop professional team against the IFLA professional team? And there is no matter about the nationality, it's company against company like in car race, in motor race and other sports. It's just a negotiation. A world championship stay always a world championship. But the door is open. I mean, if the people who are trying to do that create a tournament of the same, everybody needs to agree about the standard. Of course, the format. Maybe if you start with the format to include some of your ideas, I'm sure that Anne is going to negotiate and you will negotiate. There is not everything is permitted. It's just a matter of who is going to start that and who is going to negotiate as well with the international body. There is nothing back in my mind because I'm very free, I'm very far the business. But I can tell you that on the sports side, we are really open about that. There is no special key. Tournament with a league, why not? And if I'm saying something wrong, tell me, but I think it's one of our future if we want to go outside the box. Because, well, what you have done in broadcasting, are we able to do exactly the same thing in France? I don't know. I know what we have invested in broadcast for the World Championship last year. But if we have something covered by a body over which is able to manage the broadcasting for all the tournament, we may choose several tunnels around the world. And we always think about, well, but we are losing people because there is few people who are able to travel around the world. We never think about those who are going to gain. Those who are also joining us, which at the end, if we make a tournament with 6, 7, or 8 competition, then on each place you will have people who will join. So at the end, maybe we'll get more. This is what, to answer your question, because you require us to answer your question, this is one of my proposals.
Well, thank you very much, and that's a good one that does get us into that space of looking at the blue sky and the possibilities and thinking big, because that's the purpose of this event. Thank you to this group of panelists. Really good job. This basic theme we're going to continue because it's fundamental to where we are and what we're trying to achieve. And we'll be coming up, we'll be starting the next panel in a couple of minutes. We'll have to get the people that are coming up to put their mics on. But thanks very much to these gentlemen.
Thank you.
Great job.
in the beginning is just to go and enjoy the experience. It's awesome and it's scary at the same time. Even if we are training these kids really, really proper and trying to teach them about the athletic side of things and competition and all of that, but eventually, like, you're only gonna get really far if you're really enjoying what you're doing and loving what you're doing. So trying to give yourself the space and time for that. And I would say this to a kid who's just starting flying, but also for any of the kids on this camp. Like, make sure that you're not gonna burn out too quick. Because a lot of these kids are like, they're still super young. And if at this point, the joy is gonna disappear from their flying, they're not gonna be doing this when they're adults. They're gonna find something else to do. So I think it's really important to make sure that it keeps making you happy.
I feel full of power when I work with kids, when I work with flyers and create some ideas. It's impressed me very well. This is about their relationship, about their different style, different
Should we face the
art.
other way?
When I saw first time there.
So we're talking about growing the audience, and look at this.
We're
It's
growing
just-
the panel.
But the audience
Sounds
is-
familiar, isn't it?
There's as many people sitting in the room than we are.
I'll just go and get you guys just to say just a couple of words about yourselves, just to start with, but we'll just take a second. When are we going to start?
When people are coming back?
I think
Yeah.
people are still.
Probably.
Yeah, we will make a short break. I'm watching you.
Okay. Well, if the Frenchmen give you any trouble, you let me know. Yeah, I feel a little bit like two Frenchmen.
Oh, there is 3 French in this panel. It's going to be a mess.
En plus 3 qui parlent peu en général.
Parce qu'elle n'a pas commencé, mais elle.
On va pas l'arrêter.
Moi, je m'en fous, je la comprends quand elle parle. Je suis sûr que tu as fait la chouille hier soir, je suis sûr. C'était une petite tête et.
J'étais au lit à 10h30, quoi.
Comment énerver une meuf, tu sais. This is private joke between
It's okay.
You don't care.
Just warming up.
Yeah, I was not paying attention.
The 3 of us used to talk a lot.
Okay.
So
No, I will.
it's gonna be difficult.
Yeah.
Take your time.
This is our session.
I think it is this one.
Yeah. Somebody got in trouble.
You have black spots in the eyes when you go in the room for more than lights?
No. I think my glasses, they like...
Filter?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Sounds good. Let's
Yeah.
start.
Maybe you can do the backflip.
When we finish.
See up here on the show.
Hello.
Yeah.
See. And then Tom will do a backflip. You're welcome. Yeah. Will you do that?
Let's see how it's gonna go.
Yeah. Yeah.
I said I would, but my ankle's bad, so
Fair enough.
next time I'll do it.
Yeah, fair enough. It's a legit excuse. Or maybe I watch this.
Maybe we can do it one foot.
Just make the other one.
Yeah.
Anne. not there. I'm not there.
Okay, I think we're just going to go ahead and just start this panel. Just wanted to just go over the fact that we're going to probably cover more of the athletes and specific ideas with regarding formats, competition, how it's portrayed to the public, athletes, sponsorship, and those kind of topics. So more of the nitty-gritty to do with the grassroots level of competitors and that side of the program. I'm just going to introduce myself first of all. I'm Anne Maxwell. My background was as a professional skydiver. I moved into working at Windor and helped create and since then update the Wind Games. For the last couple of years I've been freelance, but I'm still the sporting director of the Wind Games. And so I've got a bit of competition experience from both sides. And I'm going to just pass you over and introduce you to our panel. First of all, we have Patrice. I'm just going to ask him to reintroduce himself for the television.
I'm a sport professor working for the sport ministry, and I've been a world champion in outdoor skydiving, but I'm known as well as an organizer and a meet director for several first category events at the FI level.
Thank you. Lika?
I am skydiving for the last 20 years, and I have 11 years of base jumping experience, and I have quite a few years of experience working for television stations, including MTV channel in Russia, and that mostly reporting news and shows and producing live streams. And I've been involved in tunnel flying industry since 2011, working with coaches, working with sport market, with sport flyers, with sponsorships, and organizing competitions. I've been a part of dynamic flying group and developing the discipline with many of the people here as well. And I organized together with Tommy White Knight competition that was a dynamic four-way, dynamic two-way competition, and a Sakura Cup in 2018.
Thank you very much. Manu?
Manu Ars. I've got a background in parachuting with a couple of world medals. Then moved to indoor, organized the first French nationals, for instance, 2003. And then I'm not current in competition at all in terms of being an athlete, so I'll be here as more the operator side.
Thank you. Domi?
I'm Dominique Kijard. I have also a skydiving background, a couple world titles in free flying, and then got heavily involved with the indoor aspects a few years ago with the birth of dynamic flying. And I think that's more in this regard that I'm hoping to share some insights about what we've been doing and how we could use what has happened to keep growing the sports in general.
Josh?
Josh O'Donoghue. I've been in the sport for about 12 years now. Been competing at a lot of competitions and judging a lot of competitions. Worked in various tunnels around the world and also coach and train a lot of people. Been an athlete and an examiner for tunnel instructor. Yeah, that's me.
Thanks. Toms?
Yeah, hello, my name is Tom. I'm also athlete and better feel myself when I'm flying, not talking. But yeah, I'm doing this for 4 years competing and 8 years in total flying and traveling around the world, maybe different kind of tunnels that most of the athletes, it's all open tunnels. So I have lots of, experience flying in big public events. And yeah, this is also something what I want to bring up here in this summit, and to share my vision of how far the competition can go and how much better it can be than it is now.
Thank you. I think you'll all agree we've got a really experienced panel. I think all of us can probably agree that one of our crucial pressure points at the moment is is that we're now coming in about 7 years, probably too late with this. 7 years ago, some of the competitions began, and what it was squeezing an outdoor format inside a tunnel. And probably if we'd all had the opportunity and just started from scratch with a blank paper, the formats that we see today may not have been the ones that we would have chosen back then. And I know that there are people on the panel who've got a lot of ideas about formats, and I'm going to immediately pass that over to Domi, because she looks like she's dying to jump in.
No, but I think that's interesting what you said about the concept of the blank page, and what I'm hoping to share with you with the history of dynamic flying is that even though most of the flyers that was involved with creating that concept, even though they were coming from a skydiving background, from a free-flying background, they looked at exactly the type of environment that we were using in the wind tunnel, and it's this community who came up with the battle format. It's this community who really pushed the live stream, the fact that you can watch indoor skydiving in a way more easily way than you can watch skydiving, and trying to think out of the box and not put free flying in a box, which was the case for the very first FAI competition, and then eventually the dynamic community was approached to bring that in. And I think for me the key word in what we've been doing for the last 7 years is collective intelligence. I think it was Jay this morning who was saying that he felt like he was sitting with astronauts and people with brain and passion, and that's what we are. And even though what we do is slightly obscure to most people, and I think one of the main things that came up today was we are lacking an understandable format and concept to reach a broader audience. And that is very true. And maybe if you'd asked me 4 years ago, when everything we started creating with Dynamic was very fresh and we put a lot of heart and passion into it, I would have told you, like, oh no, I want to fight for Dynamic to be that thing, to be that fer de lance, the thing that's going to represent our sports. And I think maybe now, over the years, I'm maybe mitigating my opinion on that a little bit more. But what I really believe is that this huge use of collective intelligence, the fact that you can put people in the room, and when I say in a room, I mean in a tunnel, because it's well and all to talk about flying in a room like this, but if you can do this in a place, you can also have a break, go fly, try an idea that works, that doesn't work. That's how Dynamic was created, by Tunnel supporting us, and first of all was Bottrop, and Voss with the Nordic Meet, but those Tunnel really helping, giving time to athletes, and that means a little bit of money for sure, but creating that space where this discussion can be created, those formats can be tested, and using this collective intelligence to create something new, I think that's what we need. And what everybody was saying today, like, what is it going to be, what format? Nobody really have an answer, but everybody agrees that we need something. Then I believe that what we need is for Tunnel to support the people who are passionate and are living, breathing, sleeping, flying, also as, like we have here, bringing people from other sports, from other perspectives, the media perspective, put those people in a tunnel and let them create something.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all can agree that you know, tunnel flying, well, it's beautiful to watch, and it's a very expensive sport. And, you know, right now, the people who are actually on the ground doing a lot of the work in this are the people who really are putting not just their own time, but their money, they're seeking sponsorship. And so I think we're putting an awful lot of the emphasis on the athletes and people on the ground to create these formats, try them out, and then it seems to me that people are waiting until they have a perfect format before they then want to show it. But finding the perfect format doesn't happen in one go. It's a process. It takes time, it takes investment, it takes people who are passionate to have the desire to continue that process, because sometimes it takes years. And right now, there's always a crunch point between how much time and how much money individuals can pour into that. You know, creating this perfect format, how do we do that? What is the process to achieve that?
Okay, can I start?
Yes, please.
Okay, so I've been competing for 4 years, and since then I face some problems that all the competitors are facing. It is very expensive. It is not interesting to watch even for relatives. They ask me when I compete, when you're gonna compete, which minute we're gonna turn it on, and then we're gonna turn it off because it's too long. It's 3 days, and it's just like no normal person gonna watch it. So that is the big problems, I think, 2 big problems. So, and I think the solution for that would be making the competition not 3 days, but maximum 3 hours. So also to make it more watchable, so we don't repeat the things what we do there, but make it more live. So as Dynamic did with the battle, so it's more like a fight that you can see who wins, and it's a live judging. So it doesn't mean that the judges go away and then make some miracle scores and then give it to the competitors, but it's live judging with very experienced judges. And yeah, and in the best scenario, what I imagine, it could be the competition somewhere in a New York center, in a Times Square, in a big open tunnel, and there is like one USA One. It's something like a breakdance, what is already happening with the Red Bull BC1. So it would be one USA One going like from 20 best athletes in the world to the top 1. So it gives for the athlete the opportunity to be like a rock star. Because now, like athlete, to prepare for the competition, you spend the same amount of money, like you can choose to buy a car or to be in a competition. So you choose to be in a competition. If you become, if you don't go on a podium, like no one even know who you are. So basically you spend lots of money, but you don't achieve, like maybe 10 people know about you. So I think that would give the opportunity for young kids to say, whoa, I want to do this, like I want to be part of this, like something like, I don't know, have you seen the movie where Inca was taking part, Alita? And those who have seen, they had this something like Super Bowl, and like every kid who is watching it, they want to be that, because in that like game, you can have like something like superpowers. And I think that is something what Tunnel offers, something like super good superpowers, and it's like the future sport. It's and if we can put it somewhere like in a Times Square and show that kids that you can be that in that place, you can be that rock star. The tunnels would be full with the people willing to also spend that big amount of money to be part of it. Like right now, it's hard to find the people who want to be part of it, because even if you come to the competition, like yeah.
I mean, I think we can all agree that there's the wow factor, there's the show, but it's finding the correct way to present that to the public, I think, is still not 100% figured out. And it looks like, Manu, that I can know that you have a couple of ideas about formats, and I wondered if you would like to share those.
Well, frankly, I'm a bit embarrassed because actually it's the 4th discussion we have in competition, so I'm afraid we're going in circles. I would like not to be too redundant, but a couple of things that have been said before, like I really like what Reindert said, and it really resonated. I'm more thinking about growing the sport. How do we grow this sport? I will take it from this. So if the audience, and I think that's something that's been said several times, if the audience is key, then the viewer should be the king. And we should broadcast what the viewers want. So just a part about spectators and viewers. Why not spectators? It's been mentioned in previous discussion about having an arena, something like this. I'm not a true believer of that. I think we should not put constraints on ourselves at this stage, because maybe we're not aiming at World Cup, maybe we're not aiming at the Olympics. I was supportive at the Olympics. It happened in my tunnel that we did this experiment still. Maybe we have to go through a very private format that could be like UFC. Do you have thousands of spectators around the octagon when they fight? I'm not sure. Do you have thousands of spectators around snooker games? They don't. They might not have, we don't know. So it's not needed, that's what I mean. If you want viewers, we should first address the viewers, that's my point. So why do people look at competitions? I think it's about drama and art. These are 2 key factors. And for long, we have thought of competitions, and I've been a competitor, I've been around that, as a way to evaluate our skills, because we are competitors, and we want to have rules to support that fair evaluation. So we're thinking with a competitor's brain or judge's brain, because we are insiders of the sport. But that's the competitor's point of view. Let's reverse it and look at it from the viewer's point of view. I think they're looking for excitement, failures. These things have been said today. That's about the drama part. And they're also looking about mastery and unique imagery. And that's about the art, the artistic. And they also appreciate, this has been said, to be able to build their own opinion when given a chance. So regarding drama, we have worked, we've improved. So several aspects like live judgment, instant death matches, these are things that increase the drama. But there is no excitement if there is no comprehension. And it's been said repeatedly that whoever is not an insider looks at it, gets bored after 5 minutes, despite all what we do. Because it's been built by competitors for competitors. As for the art, we have a beautiful show, but with a unique angle of vision and a unique speed. So where are the drones? Where is the slow motion? Where are the multiple cameras for multiple angles of filming?
I think every competition recently.
There's been improvements, but I think we can go maybe further and really change the focus. That's my point. I don't want to be too harsh. I know lots of different competitors. Window has been great at improvement. So the Dynamic brought a lot of new things. We saw Wim Dynamics in experimenting the live judgments, many things. But we're not there yet. We just have to face it. We're not there yet. We have to do something that people would understand from instinct and just adhere to it. We have to learn from climbing. And there was a strong resistance from competitors in climbing because we were changing their rules. With the new formats, all climbers I knew were unhappy with the new formats. But actually, by looking at it from another side, they gained so much more audience and traction, and then participants and actually more competitors because they agreed to just look at it from another point of view.
Domi, you look like you were, you had something to point out with regard to things like the slow motion and the production values. What do you think about that?
I agree with Manu that there is massive room for improvement, and I think the last 7 years have shown improvement, and we're definitely not there yet. I think showing contempt for what's already been done and for the people who are actually making the sports live is not going to really help. We need to work together. We need to realize our own shortcoming and how we can improve. And I believe this is by using this community and integrating people from outside of our sports as well. And I think that's what's been great here. I've been really loving listening to you, Reinhard, about the climbing history. And I actually discovered that the process for the new rules to be created was basically all the federations, but also apparently something the Athletes Commission, which is something maybe we should look into creating. When you said it's what we do right now is made from the athlete by the athlete, it's actually the motto of dynamic flying, for the flyer by the flyer, and I agree that we need to go beyond that, but going beyond this doesn't mean negating that source of people who are really knowing what they're talking about. So instead of antagonizing and talking down, I think we should think about uniting and maybe putting all the right people around the table, respecting each other and trying to push forward together.
Okay, I agree with that. Fair enough. But I was just saying, let's change the perspective for the objective.
Just picking up on that idea of community, I know that Lika had, I know that was something that you wanted to speak about.
We had this conversation with basically every person on this panel before, and Anne said that there is skydiving and indoor skydiving is like a different thing, and there is more and more competitors who don't skydive. It's the kids and those who just compete in the tunnel. But I feel that one of the things that indoor skydiving inherited from skydiving as well is the community. It's a very, very special thing, and people know each other, competitors know each other, and they like to spend time together, and they like to create things together, and this is something that makes skydiving and indoor skydiving very appealing, because it's not just going to the gym by yourself or something like this. It's being a part of the group, and so far it's been working really, really good as creating that collective intelligence that Tommy is talking about, and where even the best in the sport, they're very approachable, and you can talk to them, you can fly with them, you can spend time together, you can become friends. And if we scale that up, like, are we gonna lose that community thing, or can we find a way to build on that? Because like Thomas was telling about BC1, like I actually been on one of these competitions. It's a breakdancing event, and it also brings together the breakdancers from the entire world. But it's not just dancing; it's the whole culture, and it includes a lot of music. It includes graffiti. It includes lifestyle and like a lot of different things.
Yeah. It's you know, it's like surfing and skateboarding.
Yeah.
It's a lifestyle, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, just I think it was brought up on another panel, and I think it might have been Wayne from iFly that might have mentioned it. And it was this question, it was this suggestion that the sociability side, you know, a lot of people in skydiving stay in skydiving because they find a community, and you know, I think you can walk into any tunnel and you know immediately whether that community exists or it doesn't by the feeling in the tunnel. And I think that tunnels that have a larger pro-flyer community, that immediately, I think, is obvious. So people come in and they start to see that aspect. It's like going to a drop zone, and some drop zones are definitely tandem factories. And others, there are people there who stay there, they come all the time. And I think that this kind of goes back to the grassroots level. How much investment is this tunnel putting into their flyers? Why do the flyers want to hang around? Why do they want to stay together? Why do they want to fly together? And I think that this community and sociable aspect doesn't just happen. It happens because maybe the tunnel cares about the sports side of the competition, or they care about the sports side of the flying, as well as obviously, they have to care about the business side of it at the same time. So I think that it goes hand in hand together, and this ability to make your tunnel a sociable place means it's because people want to hang around there, and that seems pretty obvious. I mean, this will lead us into talking about the athletes, the people who are at the very grassroots level, of people who are investing in the sport. For me, my philosophy is that you can't have a production without the athletes. You can have a competition without the production, but you can't have a production without the competition. And so the athletes really are some of the most important people if you want to have a competition. So what makes them interested? How do you get your athletes? Because we all know it's an expensive sport. So I'm going to ask Josh to just, talk a little bit about, from his perspective, as somebody who's put a lot of his time and effort into competing at a high level.
Well, the only way that I've managed to compete for this long and to stay with it is because I've been supported by tunnels like Windor, like Bodyflight, Paul there, and in Prague. If I wasn't working in the industry, then I never would have been able to achieve what I have achieved. And I think that's all down to accessibility to the public. Because the public, they do have access to all of these tunnels, but for them to get to a level like Tom's and myself to compete in all of these competitions, it's extremely expensive, and it takes a lot of hours, and I think people need to find a way to make it more accessible to them.
So, it's super hard to find the sponsors. Most of the time, when I go to the sponsors, someone I'm trying to tell about this sport, they say, "Yeah, it's good. Like I can give you money, but I don't see that gonna be valuable for me, because it's more like there's a very small part of people who are actually interested in this sport." So, but the answer for this, I think, could be that that open tunnel in New York Times Square.
Please, somebody build this tunnel for this guy.
Then you can put the sponsor's name on the tunnel or in the brakes or somewhere, and it's gonna be visible for so many people. Like not only on TV, because again it's gonna be small, but in a live place. And I think that could be the answer when I'm gonna go next time for the sponsor. I can tell them like, okay, I will be the best, and your name is gonna be like in the New York in the Times Square. So I don't know. I think that could be the answer.
Yeah, like I think.
One of sponsored athletes, Kira Poe, who was here for the Win Games. I believe that we have a video that she made, and since it's about her sponsorship, I think we've just kind of segued into this very nicely.
So last year I got chosen to become a Red Bull athlete. We've been talking with them for quite a while, and finally it happened. So I'm really grateful for the opportunity because I mean it's Red Bull and they do sponsor one of the best athletes in the world. So I feel entirely grateful that I have this opportunity, and yeah, I'm just really happy. I honestly have no idea why Red Bull picked me. I mean, of course, we have to have a level of flying, so maybe I have been competing for a number of years, and I've been doing pretty well in the competitions, but I also think as a Red Bull athlete, it's not only about winning medals, but it's about what kind of athlete you are. So during competitions, whether you're supporting other people, whether you're cheering other teams on and being a good sports person and just having fun with everybody, I think that having the spirit of the sport, and as an indoor skydiving competitor, you just have to always be happy and positive. And yeah, it's not all about winning, but maybe sometimes, but it's about loving the sport and loving the people in it as well. So hopefully more people will be in the Red Bull community for indoor skydiving, because now it's only me and Maya. Hopefully we have other teams like Dynamic, and yeah, I'm excited to see how the sport grows. Yeah, so last year we did a project, me and Maya, in Abu Dhabi in the later part of the year, and it was amazing. We actually did the opening ceremony for the largest tunnel in the world. It's a 32-footer in Abu Dhabi, and I was insanely grateful for the opportunity. I mean, for us to build a 32-footer, I think we're really taking the sport to new heights, and I can't wait to see what it's installed, but I think that this would really bring the sport to new levels, and especially the competition scene as well. I've been in this sport for around 9 years, and I've been competing since 2012. When I first started, this sport was entirely different. Like, there was much less people, and the competition scene was different, and I think that I'm really happy about how this sport has evolved, like the number of people that I've mixed with. Like, there's people all over the world that we call family, so I'm really grateful for that. And I think that the competition scene has grown bigger and bigger, and the disciplines that we have has changed, and we have new categories and everything, and I really think that this sport is going in a good direction, and I hope it continues. So I started because of a mistake. My mom was helping iFly Singapore do their advertisements, and it needed people to just come down and fly. So I was just one in like maybe 200 people that tried. But then I continued, and then I figured out that you could compete, and that's when I realized I really love this sport, and I want to continue. And 9 years later, I've been flying for like half my life, and I'm here traveling around the world, having amazing opportunities, which I'm really grateful for. And yeah, I just hope that I can stay in this sport for as long as possible and see it grow and have more people come into the sport, but especially keep this spirit of our community being so close and so supportive. So I think, like everybody else in the sport, when we heard that the 2024 didn't happen in Paris, I think all of us were really disappointed and upset. But I think that it might also be a good step for the sport. Like, we can reevaluate our competition styles and how we judge as well, and fine-tune the way we judge the different disciplines. And hopefully it can be in the Olympics in the later part of the years. But I think for now, the way the sport is growing and all the different opportunities and projects that I've seen everyone doing is in the good direction, and let's just hope for the best. I mean, we can all dream for it to be in the Los Angeles 2028. Hopefully it will happen. Nobody knows, but we're all keeping our fingers crossed. And if it doesn't, we just have to continue pushing our sport, getting everyone to know about it, and just continue flying and do it because we love it. Whether it's in the Olympics or not, we're still going to have the World Cup, the World Championships, the Wing Games. So that's something to focus on. But if it does become in the Olympics, which is everybody's dream, I think that would be an amazing opportunity. For me to give interviews, I mean, of course, at the start when we started out as children, we were like, me and my partner, we were just 9 years old, and we didn't know how to talk to the camera at all, and probably we were saying nonsense. But I think after a while, being in the sport, having media and everything, we have to also present our sport in the way we want it to grow and in the right way and manner. So I think that it comes as like practice, but we don't want to say the wrong thing, but just to put our sport out to the media and to everyone around, because social media is really important. And it does help our sport grow. Like if you see the Win Games, when the video went viral, it actually helped our sport grow a lot. So I think that it's a skill that maybe not all the time I want to do it, but yeah, it's good. I don't use Facebook. I use mostly Instagram. I just hit 10,000 followers. So yeah, but I'm still growing. I'm still trying to learn how to be better on social media, but also not to forget and get messed up with all about social media stuff, and just be serious during the competition and know what I have to do and not get distracted by all of the media and everything, just to focus and fly because I want to fly.
I think that Kira is a perfect example of a really professional indoor athlete. She cares about her sponsors, and in addition to Red Bull, she picked up sponsorship as one of the faces for tourism in Singapore. Last year, her and her teammate, Yixuan, these guys, the girls rather, they were the junior sports team of the year in Singapore last year. And that's a really big achievement, because they've achieved a level of recognition, not just inside our community, but in the sporting community as a whole. I think it's important that we do have faces. I think every sport always has recognizable faces. And I think that, there's a little bit, this idea of elite competitors, but every sport has world champions. Every sport have recognizable people, and it's a way for the public to relate to them. They all have their stories. It's a way to provide a face to a sport and make it more recognizable. And then that can filter down. When you walk into a tunnel and you want to start learning to fly, what inspires you to fly in that tunnel? Very often it's seeing other people fly and you want to fly like they do. They don't have to be world champions, but in order to encourage them to take that first-time flight and maybe want to do some more, they want to be able to see somebody who is doing something that they'd like to do as well. So that depth of competition can go all the way from the bottom to the top, but you still have to have those people in the tunnel who are flying. And at that level, if you're not competing for your nation, or you're not competing and winning, how do you afford that? I mean, right now, the athletes, they're paying for all of that themselves. So how do we help at that level, or where is this sponsorship going to come from? Because right now, from a commercial perspective, it's difficult, to explain why somebody who is in a business, why are they going to put some money into this? Josh.
I know that pushing into the Olympics would possibly be a great thing for our sport, but if you look at other sports like boxing, for example, and things like this, no one really watches boxing in the Olympics. All of the boxing that everyone watches is what everyone knows, And that started because companies got together and they put a lot of money into it, and then they made it big, and they showed the world what it is. And I think if we could do that, if we could put together a project or put together a portfolio or a team of people just to go out there to these huge companies and say, look, this is our sport, this is what we have. We would like to make this grow. What do you think?
Well, in a dream scenario, I mean, Domi, what would you like to see happen this year? How this year, next year? How do you think we could go forward?
Well, I think mostly right now what we have to admit is that we are in the very infancy of our sports. And it can be very frustrating sometimes. We're definitely not as far as we want to be, but that's also very exciting. And it's not up to one individual to make a decision. I think it's very much up to groups of people and different interests and different aspects of the sports to get together. I think we all agree that the bigger the sports become, the better it will be for the athletes, the better it will be for the businesses. I have the double hat of opening a tunnel soon, and for sure, for me, the most it is known as a sport, the better it will be for me as well, no matter where the events are opening or what's going on this regard. So I think if we start within the community of supporting the sports more, and I think Simon said it very well this morning, that we need to create heroes, we need to push the sports, because we need to turn those lovely first-timers into return flyers. That's in everybody's interest. And for this, sports is really a gateway, so we need to put our brains together and come up with a better format than we have now, come up with something that is understandable, sexy, attractive, and just keep pushing. We cannot just stay where we are now.
I mean, we all know what the UFC's done with their event. I mean, Patrice, what do you think about that? Do you think that we could take a leaf out of the book of the UFC and, put together a series, perhaps, of our own?
Well, before the UFC, there is other sports who are doing that. I think so. I mean, on the organizer perspective, I'm coming from the outdoor, and I was involved in the last World Championship. This is not really complicated to organize, honestly. Taking out of the boxes, which are the competition themselves, for example, the dynamic, and after that the formation skydiving, the setup of an organization is not really complicated. I mean, it's easier to organize indoor rather than outdoor. You are not under the dictature of weather guard or whatever, or engine failure with an aircraft. On the other way, on an airfield, you can have spectators, and we can't. Real spectators, not the cousin, the girlfriend, the neighbor, and all that. We know that. Around a tunnel, even if they are big, you still have the family, the community. How can you go outside? The only way to go outside is what you are doing. It's to broadcast and to have a TV production. Who creates the drama? The format itself creates the drama, for example, the battles, but the media coverage as well. Because if you have a good TV production, then you can make slow motion. And when you are watching a competition in live, this is only one shot. If you have missed, for example, the point, then what are you doing? You turn and you see the screen, and you see the results, and you see the slow motion. In the UFC, exactly what it's working. I have seen. Well, I don't sleep too much, and every night I follow the UFC. I don't remember, probably Wayne knows exactly where we are, 350 or 400, whatever, with all the same. The commentators, they are famous as well, and well, you never, probably, sometimes you miss the point. You miss when they hit the other, and then you have the playback, you have the faces and all that. We need that. Are we ready to do that? Yes, it's easier internal, but we miss the spectators. I have seen some UFC issue with 10,000. No, I'm not joking. Well, you know better than it. 10,000 spectators around. Ticketing, market. They drink their beer around. They socialize and all that. So we need that. So the concept, and I'm very glad that you say we have to go somewhere. And well, it's not off record. These people, those young people, we need them because they are very powerful and they are still passionate, and we need that in our sport, of course. You have to think about your format. You have to think about your rules, and you will always find organizers as us to make it happen. Just because when you say a short one, it's what the next generation they want. I have some kids. If it's more than 3 hours, they go away. They are doing something else. And that's true, that's the reality. A short one understandable, and this is probably one of your problems, to be understandable and instantly. If what you are doing is not understandable, everybody will always understand that the race is won by somebody, or there is a winner, or there is a loser. So it's just a message addressed. But if the competition itself is short, well, it's easy to organize. I mean, it could be organized with other competition. There is one point. We are talking about show. There is a border that, in my opinion, we have not to sell, to go away. And we have not to sell our values. In the past, I have seen a lot of time competitors, athletes, outdoor, indoor, whatever, they take a fencing suit, they take a soccer suit, and they play soccer in the air, or they play tennis in the air, or they play something else in the wind tunnel, just to show that it's possible to bring the sport. In my opinion, we give the signal that we are not able to exist by ourselves. And for example, when Roland and other people, they were involved in Seoul by building these incredible Olympics rings in freefall, after that nothing happened, because the signal we sent, it's we are able to do that, so we are showmen and we are stuntmen. And for me, it's the border we have to deal with that, not to sell our values. You have to sell what you are able to do. And what you are doing in the tunnel, it's incredible by itself. It's not necessary to put a red nose here and to look like somebody else. You understand what I mean? So I just want to address you that.
So the difference between a show and a sport?
Of course. Because a show, I mean, you really are touching the spectators to make them laugh and so on. Doesn't mean that on the side of the competition, we have not to make some show. But mixing both, well, it is just my personal feeling that we may lose our values.
So Josh?
I think we already have what we need as a sport in terms of what we're doing. Like we have the solo speed races, where you go in, you perform a routine, and you get out and you see the time instantly, and then someone does the same thing, and then you can instantly see if that person's slower or faster. And then you have the solo freestyle with music now, and people connect with that, and just because they can see something wow and they can connect with the music and everything's timed and things like this, maybe they don't quite understand how they're flying in the tunnel, but for them it's wow. But then you've got the problem that it's not being shown to all of these people, so it's not. I can't switch on my TV at home and go, oh, indoor skydiving. I have to go online and I have to look at the right webpage and things like this. Whereas Tom's is a great idea of you stick a tunnel that's easy to build in a place where there's millions of people walking around all the time. And then you put that concept of the time and the solo freestyle and everything like this. And then you've got everything. We already have it, I think. We just need to do it.
I mean, in the new tunnel in Barcelona, it's in the football stadium. It's going to have footfalls on a Saturday of 70,000 people walking straight past the glass tube of the tunnel. And it would be interesting to see whether or not, that they're interested in stopping and seeing what they're looking at. Because suddenly there will be the spectator audience. I mean, we've talked a lot about generalities of how we'd like things to go, but practically speaking, how do we get there? How do we take all these great ideas and, a lot of really experienced people? We're all coming from very different places, and we're still operating a little bit from, oh, that's not my technology, or that's not my team, or that's not my tunnel. How do we bring it all together? I mean, we're starting here at this summit, which is a great point to move forward from. But how do we set aside our differences, and how do we come together with the things that we have in common? Because I think all of us have this great desire to see our sport move forward. But how do we make that work?
I see you talk about money. Tom, Jonathan do the same.
Josh.
Josh. We should maybe think of stopping chicken and egg, because we need money to have a better audience and other audience to get more money. So where do we start? Yeah. Maybe with the same thing as suggested earlier, is what about we get our own governing body and work together? Because you're talking community, and that's very great, and I think that's what you've succeeded in doing, but now it needs to get everyone involved and everyone responsible for the future of our sport. I think what Roland is doing here by putting us together is the first stage of putting that together. But we need that organization. It cannot just be on the shoulders of some people willing to do something and then dying because they feel alone.
Yeah, I agree.
It doesn't mean that all business industries here will agree at once on how much they should put and what they should go to. And then it should not just be wasted money. We have to learn from people who had a success in doing that. So I think we had a very good example and lessons to take from ISC, for example, for the climbing. They did it. How did they do it? What was their mental process? And I had some discussions with Render today, and I suggest we take more discussions with such people with so valuable learnings we could take for ourselves, because they've already gone through that process.
Yeah, I mean, I think I see a lot of people nodding heads there. Domi, what would you like to say about that?
No, I completely agree. I think it's been done in other sports, and we're struggling at the moment, so we should open up ourselves to the lessons of those who came before us and try to make it happen.
Lika, I could see you nodding your head too.
Just listening, I absolutely agree with everybody, and I think it's very important to communicate this idea of a collective effort. So this community, which is quite big at the moment, but not as big, does not separate into like us competitors and like them who are making the rules, but still stays as one unit who works on it together, and it's like we all creating the rules, we all trying to make it nicer, we all trying to make it more self-explanatory so the audience can understand and can understand and can follow what's happening. So this idea of community needs to be communicated.
I mean, we talked a little bit earlier about this phrase, collective intelligence. You know, I think the one thing we don't lack as a community is intelligence, but I think one of the things we do lack is cohesion. And, you know, it seems to me that over and over we're reinventing the wheel every time, whereas in reality, we have the expertise. We're just not bringing it together, and, you know, and this, I think that it's a platform from the ground up, and it's from and outwards as well. You know, we have some people whose skill set is from flying, and they can input that. There are other people from the organizational perspective, and helping create formats and rules, and I think that if we could bring this community together, and we start to do that, then we can then take that information and pass it down and give it to tunnels where they could put it into smaller formats and practice in littler formats in their own tunnels rather than just having these big production events. I mean, if we could take some of the formats and make them achievable in just an evening in a tunnel in 1 hour with just your local community, then this way we don't just keep the information for big events, but we spread it out and make it available to everybody. Toms, what do you think?
I am thinking now about this game Simon said, because everyone says this, but Simon said very good things, and that's why everyone says that. So what I was thinking that when I was doing some camps in US, most kids that I was coaching was telling me they wanted to become better athletes after their instructor said after first flight that you were really good, and but there is a kids club and maybe you want to join it. So and after that they kind of get hooked up and they start to do it. So I think there is some things that every tunnel is doing really good, and I think every tunnel, not only iFlies, could do, and that like little things can bring that sport more and more up. Yeah.
Dominic.
Somebody was mentioning technology and how we use it, and I know at the moment as we speak there's people working on integrating some kind of VR game, like you can, as you're flying, like follow a little hummingbird or touch some bricks, like all this, and like that's not virtual reality, it's extended reality. So you see what augmented reality. So yeah, there's a lot of people putting their brains in creating new stuff, and we're only seeing the beginning of those. And I think that's also probably going to open doors on how we can make our sports more understandable and more exciting for a broader audience.
And you know, we don't need to begin from the beginning. There's lots of other sports that have already showed us and leading the way on that. You know, we can pick up from, you know, a lot of information from them, and we can just use that to kind of cut short that process. Patrice, what do you think about that?
Well, I think that the idea has been already said here. I mean, we have the opportunity to create tournament. We have the opportunity to create the league system. Whatever you put inside, like you said, the product itself is you are satisfied with the speed. You are satisfied with the freestyle music. But what we need now is to improve a little bit. Well, I've never seen a competition, a tunnel against another tunnel. You don't need any body over your head just to make this kind of competition. For example, a tunnel from Spain is doing a competition against a tunnel from France, for example, which is always happening in soccer.
Well, the Global Kids Challenge does that.
Sorry?
The Global Kids Challenge does that.
Okay, that's a goal could be reached also with the seniors as well. And it's open to create also, not formats, but a kind of competition which satisfy intermediate levels, and that's it. Well, I'm not an operator, I'm not a businessman right now, but honestly, to organize that is not so complicated. The set of rules are maybe a little bit stronger right now, but they could be revisited for this kind of competition, and we don't need always to reach the top level competition on the top, which is only one time. As you said, it's not consistent, and we need more. But why not trying to do something like that? It's a matter of operator, in my opinion.
I mean, even virtual events. You know, you can create one event, and then other tunnels around the world can do the same event at the same time. And suddenly, the effort that goes into one event can be used by a lot of different people, and all of them competing at the same time and pooling their resources. Lika, what do you think?
Yeah, I think I was just thinking about the Global Kids Challenge.
The IBA Global Kids Challenge.
Yeah, because I seen some entries to that competition, and like some of the videos, they're just like good enough for a judge to have a look and like assign some like difficulty score and this and that, but they're like not good to put online or show to the audience, and that's like a very, very big part of the problem. I remember in 2015 when we were doing a live stream for a dynamic competition for White Knights, we had like a very, very professional crew, and we were just brainstorming what can we bring into that live stream to make it more interesting. And ever since, it just gets better and better. And now in Win Games, you had like very, very nice live stream with slow motion repeats and with like green screen, like newsroom reporting and all these new nice features, and also like showing the results. And there is a lot of room for improvement, and you just need to build on what we already have. And one more remark that I had, it was a lot of talking about UFC, and like in my point of view, UFC is kind of self-explanatory. So like guy is down, he lost, no, kind of. But then there is some sports, for example, figure skating. Like, I don't think many people know the rules or know the judging criteria for it, but a lot of people watch it because it's very nicely presented. It's nice music, it's filmed nicely, they wear nice costumes and all. Yeah, it's not about the costumes.
You can all look at a performance and see whether you have a connection with it or not.
Yeah, you kind of understand what it is. You kind of understand that this thing is really difficult and this thing is like a very nicely choreographed, and this thing is something else.
I just want to be really respectful because we have another panel coming up after this. I don't know if we have any time for questions. Roland, do we have time?
I really think we should.
Okay, yeah.
Which is no.
What I said before, if someone has a question, like
please mail it to us, put it in the YouTube chat, whatever. We will get around to it. Promise.
Okay, I just want to thank everybody for your views and your expertise, and that was a great panel. Thanks.
Thank you.
Patrice.
All right, let's do it like this. Let's go. Have a coffee, have whatever refreshment you want, but make sure you're going to be back in here in 10 minutes' time, not 1 minute more. Because we'd like to wrap today on time with a little bit of a summary by our host and head moderator. Thanks.
We people, marvelous, playful creatures. To rule the river, we caught it in a box. To outrun time, we broke the ribbon of the main road. To overcome gravity, we rose above the clouds. And this time, we captured the sky and bring one piece to the ground. To hold the wind, to master gravity, to free your dreams. We are the life, we are the time, the passion, and the revolution. We are mad.
In the beginning is just to go and enjoy the experience. It's awesome and it's scary at the same time. Even if we are training these kids really, really proper and trying to teach them about the athletic side of things and competition and all of that, but eventually, like, you're only gonna get really far if you're really enjoying what you're doing and loving what you're doing. So trying to give yourself the space and time for that. And I would say this to a kid who's just starting flying, but also for any of the kids on this camp. Like, make sure that you're not going to burn out too quick. Because a lot of these kids are like, they're still super young. And if at this point the joy is going to disappear from their flying, they're not going to be doing this when they're adults. They're going to find something else to do. So I think it's really important to make sure that it keeps making you happy.
I feel full of power when I work with kids, when I work with flyers and create some ideas. It's impressed me very well. This is about their relationship, about their different style, different art.
When I saw first time they're doing their thing, it was like super scary. I was like, how can they do that so like smooth and do all the tricks?
It's super exciting to be working with a dancer. Like, I've never done it before. It's difficult to be synced together because not a lot of our moves are the same. Like spinning and flipping, they're gonna have to do something sort of like that. But my favorite part in our routine is when we're on the wall and like connecting and then flipping back.
In this space, we can fly. We can do trick. We can do move. Do it fast and do it smooth. When you learn new position, you fight with wind. Just fly, it's very easy. Yes, but I mean, to be in the top of flying, this is hard. Because if you want to be in the top of flying, you need to work a lot.
Flying is a new sport and new discipline. It's been like kind of developing so much during the past few years. And being a part of actually pushing a sport and creating a sport has been epic.
It's been really inspiring being in a part of this project.
It's just gonna take a lot of time and work and kind of also the commitment that you get a group together, that the same people are gonna be working for the project for a long time. Then you can actually get somewhere with it.
Sokkal nehezebb egy táncossal dolgozni, mint egy olyan emberrel, aki bent van velem a szélcsatornában. Mert teljesen máshogy tudunk mozogni, és teljesen máshogy is mozgunk.
We have never flown together like other than having fun, so it's a new experience because we usually have different partners. So to be able to team up with each other is pretty fun. It's really like there's so many different combinations of
sport in this one.
The young generation of flyers are so talented, and it's so cool to see them as such a good group of friends. Competitive with each other, and then we get out and it's like we're family.
táncosok, viszonyítási pontok a flyerekhez képest.
Csomó mindent szerintem meg lehet csinálni földön, amit a levegőben nem, és egy csomó mindent meg lehet csinálni a levegőben, amit a földön nem. És hogy valahogy ebben hogyan lehet olyan összhangot teremteni, az egy érdekes kérdés.
Technikailag egy nagyon komoly kihívással állunk szemben. Egy nagy plexihenger foglalja el a tér közepét, mert két oldalán fehér vásznak vannak kifeszítve, amire nagy fényerejű vetítés kerül. De most azt hiszem, hogy sikerült ezt megugranunk, és vissza tudjuk adni azt a látványt, amit egy néző átél, hogyha egy ilyen showra beül.
Jó, ez az.
Tunnel doing it. I can do it. He can do it.
Jó, menjen valaki odahoz a lámpához. Forduljál el jobban a lapira. Eltűnt innen ez a fény, kéne vissza.
Tell them 2 minutes and we're going. We're going to start off with a presentation.
Optimális esetben nem is kell hozzányúlni a számítógéphez, és magától repül az animáció és minden.
If that's all right with you, and it's going to be
unacceptable.
No.
Yeah, please. One more introduction.
Okay, let's. Lauri, pozionare Kevin.
A forgatás az azért van, mert a szélcsatornákat a világon tulajdonképpen nem előadó térnek építették, hanem ezek egy sport dolgok. És jelen pillanatban nem tudunk leültetni 100.
Did you know this?
There's a big structure, it's going to be there.
Let's go. Oh no, I see it. I think it's an autocorrect.
It's just a name. They put the wrong name.
This is the 4th time we're doing this.
Yes.
Honestly, it must be. It must be, honestly.
But Hagen is correct.
Hagen is absolutely
I'm
correct.
happy.
All right, I have to go on record here. We have spelled the name of one of our panelists wrong, and pretty much consistently. I really cannot do anything else than say sorry.
No problem.
All right, this is the last session for today. It's bringing it all together, and I think that's what we're trying to do here in a relatively short time. And I think we're perfectly equipped to do that. Let me introduce the people here, starting with Hagen on my right. Hagen is a sports broadcaster, old school. He was the youngest sports director of the German public television ARD, and that's a big, big deal. That's a little bit
20 years ago.
Well, yeah, that speaks for you. All right, and now he is a consultant. He's working independently, but for big, big clients. And one of his clients, I think, we're focusing on his work there a little bit, is the World Games, where he deals with 40 different sports every 4 years. Last time you pulled off a miraculous and very brilliantly done coverage on Wrocław in Poland. Your first one was
Cali, Colombia.
Cali, Colombia. What was the best sport there?
The best sport in Cali, Colombia was, to be honest, salsa dancing at the old bullfighting arena.
17,000 people. We sold out there was a black market for tickets in dance sport. And it was the selection of the venue. It was Plaza de Toros. And it had the atmosphere and it transmitted it, and then people were really going crazy. All right, so we're going to be talking about that. Then we have Tommy, a world champion, soon to be owner of her own wind tunnel in probably the best location of France. Then we have my friend Toms. He was probably the one on this panel I had the most contact with, simply because I read somewhere that he has a big breakdancing background. And that kind of put us on the same wavelength. We talked a little bit about that. Then we have another dancer here, and that's Inka. That's contemporary, and somehow I think it shows. Whenever we watch you perform, it's graceful. It's an emotional type thing. Thank you very, very much for being here. And then we have Josh. He is the local crack, who, unfortunately, just prior to the Wing Games, injured himself and was not able to compete. So you're on your way to recovery, no?
Hope so.
All right. So what's the next step for you in terms of competition?
The Worlds in Belgium. Hopefully I'm going to be okay to be able to compete for that, but I don't know yet.
Okay.
We'll see.
I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
Now, I have done a little bit of research on what has been done in terms of coverage, media coverage, in terms of really major productions and small productions, streams of competitions. And then, not very long ago, I came across one name, Finnish name. You know him very well. I mean, I think he's worked with most of you. His name is Lauri Apro.
Lauri.
Huh?
Lauri.
Lauri.
Yes.
Lauri.
Apro.
That's like my daughter. All right. And I'm working with a group of, I really consider, outstanding professionals in production. And in fact, they're doing what's getting on screen here right now. They saw what he put together and they said, this is incredible. So we asked Lauri to produce an 8-minute, we asked him certain questions, he answered them, but above all, he transmitted what he perceives as being the essence of your sport. And I think, can we roll video 1? This is Lauri Apro, Finnish cameraman, probably the one that has done you the most good with what he produced, honestly. It's mind-boggling. Can we go? Can we turn on?
My name is Lauri Apro and I'm a filmmaker photographer from Finland. I'm specialized in filming, wind tunnel and skydiving. Here is part of my show reel from 2017. I believe that when people are happy in set, it also makes the final product better. It's not easy to explain why. Maybe it's just the general atmosphere that affects everyone's performance, even mine. I have regular clients and athletes that I have been working with more than once. Probably it tells that they have been happy to work with me, or at least I hope so. Filming in Abu Dhabi was an amazing experience. The tunnel is so big that it was hard to even imagine how it would be like to film in there. It was really exciting project, and there was possibilities to shoot in a way that it's not possible in any other tunnels. Sometimes it almost felt like skydiving. And of course, performers Maya and Kira were doing an excellent job. They had only 3 days to create and perform the whole routine, and we managed to film it during that short time period. It is interesting to see where the sport will evolve in the future with tunnels like that. And of course, it opens new possibilities for filming, commercials and stunts. Well, it's hard to say. It might be that when there's more and more tunnels, they have to commit to marketing and stand out. In my opinion, there's a room for marketing that would benefit the sport as a hobby and as something that is more than just one-time experience. There are a lot of potential customers in between first-timers that only fly once and the competing athletes. I would say it's both, like in every other sport. Compared to commercials, documentaries are way more time-consuming. In commercials, it's easy to control what people say, but documentaries might reveal something that we don't know yet about the sport. I like doing both. It's a really wide question and would take a lot of time to answer, but shortly I would approach it like on any other event. Maybe it would be useful to look similar projects from some mainstream sport as an inspiration. In my opinion, the sport should always be the center. But obviously, when we tell the background stories of the athletes, it brings them closer to the audience. Usually people are not only fans of the performance, but the character as well. Yes, of course, why not? Like every other sport. It just needs to be made in a way that it's easy to follow. Like Mason Corby said, even if you start watching from the middle, you need to know straight away who is leading. Once again, indoor skydiving could take inspiration from mainstream sports that are already popular. Okay guys, I need to go. Thank you for listening and have a great day.
Trying to understand what all the fuss is about. Flying it to myself, I built
I believe he is right now in Korea. I mean, he's traveling at a really crazy pace. He has been in China last week and did this, I think, beginning of the last week, and now went to Korea. He made a very interesting observation that ties in with a comment you made. Look to other sports for inspiration in terms of telling stories, and you mentioned one that, it's not the first one you associate with indoor skydiving.
Yeah, so I was talking about this earlier. We've been hearing a lot of people talking here about marketing our sport through the competitions, which is an important aspect, but also the first skateboarding competition that I watched was a year ago. But I feel like I've been following skateboarding for a lot longer. I've been seeing it in movies, I've been seeing it in TV. I watched a bunch of YouTube videos I know names of skateboarders, I've seen documentaries. And this is the marketing work that I feel like myself and also Lauri have been doing for years. I've worked with him in a lot of these projects. And this is what we've been trying to do for years, to kind of like get the sport out of the competitions, out of our community, and out there in the world, so that the little kids somewhere there around the world can watch movies where there's indoor skydiving featured, and then hopefully the dream of becoming a professional indoor skydiver is going to already grow from there. And I think he's doing an amazing job. What has been a conversation that we had several times with Lauri while we were doing, for example, the Apple commercial that you guys saw clips of, is how are we going to present, or how are we going to find kind of the compromise between what do people want to see and that we are at the same time showing something that we can be proud of. Because if you go to any indoor facility and you watch what the first timers are excited to see, it's when the instructor pops up in their demo. This is not something that we want to be showing about our sport, but we need to kind of find the in-between of what can people relate to, what they find exciting, and what satisfies our egos as athletes at the same time, so that we can then, push the sport further and feel like it's going to a direction that we're happy with.
Could I suggest a way of proceeding from here? I mean, we have probably one of the world's most experienced and with a broad experience sports broadcaster here, and I'm almost certain you have questions that you are wondering what should we do, and you've seen now, he's finished, but this looked like a Swedish smorgasbord, a little bit of everything, and I think that was, that's how he works. But, I mean, as you heard, he has given it a lot of thought. What would I have to do to really draw somebody's attention to the evolution in a competition, or to the personality of one of the stars? How about you, Domi? Ask Hagen something you wanted to know about the television formats that are available and...
Oh, wow, I was not expecting that question.
Me either.
I mean, I guess it is very important that that kind of conversation happens, and right now on the spot might not be coming up with the most smart questions, but there is definitely a lack of communication between our world and your world, and that's really the gap we need to bridge, I believe. Personally, I've been very involved in competition, and how do we make that better is one of my concerns. But as a future tunnel operator that's going to open in between a huge theme park and a 6,000 people sports arena, I'm also very interested in developing shows and bringing indoor skydiving to a broader audience as a spectacle. Now, who do we contact, who do we lobby, and how do we get in touch with the channels that have the opportunity to make us bigger, I guess, would be my question to you.
I mean, we from the World Games, we are familiar with that discussion from different sports we have in our program. And I mean, the video we have seen from the director here made it obvious again, your problem is not that your sport is not attractive from the visibility. Your problem is not that you have great athletes. Some of them are here. That's definitely not the problem of your sport. Other sports, they have to think, okay, how we can create some pictures that is thrilling for spectators. That's not your problem. I guess the challenge for you, I wouldn't say a problem, it's a challenge, is how to tell our story to a broader spectatorship. And that's what I've learned today in your discussion here. And if I may say this as an external, on the one hand, I feel all the passion from the stakeholders from your sport, for business ideas, for competition ideas. There's a lot of passion and commitment. On the other hand, you are still discussing some basic questions from your sport, what you don't have solved so far. It's beginning from standard for wind tunnels, or the competition between different manufacturers of wind tunnels. It goes further to competition formats. Is it a World Championship or World Cup or whatever? So, and all these questions, that is a gap to your dream to become an Olympic sport. You know, my experience is you have to do, as a federation or a sport, you have to do your homework first before you sell your product. Some of the federations, they don't like the expression of a product, because we talk about the sport and athletes, of course, but before you can promote your brand of your sport, you have to do your homework. That's what I want to say.
What do you reckon is an appropriate time frame? Because I very much agree with what Tom was saying earlier. We need to go away from 3 days of people screaming everything is awesome to something that's like 2 or 3 hours that can be followed. I think cricket had the problem recently that their game is way too long and they're changing their format.
Wine drinking event, the cricket match.
Fair enough. Okay, let's keep the 3 day screaming. Make it a drinking game out of it. But I think that's our main problem.
I totally agree, Domi. Two things. One is to evaluate your formats, and probably to create part of the format for the event on site, for the spectators on site, and then to create like a TV format or media format. It's not only television, for the final decision, whatever. I was part of a working group back in the 90s, installed by the Biathlon Union. And they had invited a marketing expert, 2 TV experts, one from Norway and myself from Germany, and one from the federation. And we started to evaluate the sport of biathlon. And at that time, the disciplines, I mean, that was more or less, they disappeared in the forest, they came back for shooting, they disappeared in the forest again, they came back for shooting. And the production was on a really low level. And all what you've seen today in the Olympic program, the mass start, the mixed relay, the pursuit, the upgrade of the production, the integration of more graphics, that was built up in that working group. And what you mentioned before, the integration of augmented reality or data, or we are working on different projects with our sports for the next World Games with virtual graphics to explain spectators what's going on there. I mean, you as expert, of course, you see immediately who is good, who is not that good. But I'm, as an amateur or outsider, I do not see this. And I just can tell you from the technology side, there are huge opportunities in the meantime to develop some virtual graphics and to say, okay, that would be the perfect case, and now let's have a look on the athlete, what he is doing. So, and you are a modern, fresh sport, you definitely have to work with that kind of technology. And technology, if I may say this, it's often an opportunity to make this possible through cooperations with companies. You know, to set up a structure of events, to improve your your wind tunnels, that is difficult and that needs investment. But these technology side, it's often possible to make that or to enable that through cooperation with technology companies. So just some remarks.
Keep the geek working.
Yeah.
Someone else with a question for Hagen?
Yeah, what about athletes like this? If I'm thinking watching other sports that I would like to be following, there's always this like emotional contact that you build not just because what you're watching, but who you're watching. Like we know the athletes, we know a lot about the background stories, and then we end up following other stuff that they're doing as well, not just the competition. So like Tom's was talking about earlier, making people rock stars. And I feel like this is something that's missing a little bit. I had my first chance of commentating now at the Wind Games, and I feel like I had time to say nothing about the people. It's like, hey, this is Thompson. He used to be a breakdancer, and he has a big smile on his face. Go. And that's not enough information, in my opinion, to build that connection.
I was wondering that when I've seen your videos today, you know, what makes rock stars? The performance, not to say show, it's a performance, and you are doing, in my understanding, you are doing a great performance, but that's only one side, the other side is the emotion. And that what I was wondering, how could you show the emotions in your sport, your emotions, your happiness, your disappointment, whatever. I mean, of course you have a helmet and anything. It's a challenge for director, for movie makers, how to show. And we talk about not about commercial spots. We talk about broadcasting of your main events. How can I communicate about your emotions, what you have? Of course you have it in, I mean, you are athletes, so you are emotional. So that's one of the challenges. I do not have the solution here, but that is missing, because the relationship between viewers or users and online offers and the sports, the relationship is based on emotions. They want to feel with the athletes they follow, and you can prepare it through your social media activities. That is really smart, what you're doing, and that is part of your homework, to be honest, to build up this network from your sports. The athletes, the organizers, the federation, the wind tunnels. Of course, you have to connect each other, you have to like each other, and to build up this social ecosystem for your community. But this is just the basis. You want to grow. You know, you want to go further outside your community. And therefore you need, of course, broadcast partners, and therefore I guess the value from the World Games is really there, because during the World Games, I mean not for your sport, but for air sports, for the disciplines we have in the program at the moment, we can offer that platform. We have broadcast partners in 100 countries. So if I may say this, one of my strategic targets for your sport would be to be integrated into different multi-sports events. You have to see what is possible with your governmental body, but is it the World Games, is it Asian Games, Commonwealth Games, University Games, wherever, but that is an existing platform what you could use with your cool pictures you are able to produce.
You said cool pictures, and obviously you pretty much insinuate that the important part is getting the story across and then telling about these fabulous and charismatic people. And we had Kira, the 18-year-old from Singapore. I mean, she's 18, you're already of a certain age. There are youngs. We've seen this morning a 7-year-old from right here. But somehow, this sport seems to attract very, very above average, charismatic people like
But Roland, that's not, I mean, you know many sports from the World Games as well, and these athletes are the best ambassadors. Yeah. I do not want to, I mean, in Germany, the journalist, and I used to work as a journalist as well, we say it's different to make an interview with a football player or other athletes, you know, and from other athletes there comes so much passion and commitment for your sport, so that's definitely not the problem. The athletes are there, they are committed, they are willing to do something, and so this is organized but now you have to find ways to communicate it.
Exactly. And that they're committed, the fact that you would take part in this. I mean, this shows your commitment. It's not normal that a competitor says, hey, I'm going to go
And
and
I
sit
like
with the
your
officials.
approach. I mean, of course, we could discuss the idea to do it in New York, but I like the approach to find the optimized version. You know, sometimes it's good to dream to find the right direction.
Exactly. Now, Josh, what would be, I mean, right now you weren't able to compete, but like obviously you were watching on location, on site, and
Judging.
Okay. If you are not on site, how much are you really relying on a streaming to get the news and evolutions of a competition taking place somewhere where you're not?
All of it. Well, because I'm in the community, you know, I know people on Facebook and Instagram, so I'm going to be able to see posts of people that are there. But for someone who's not in the community, they only have access to the live, which is on a website that they need to try and find somewhere. So they would already have to be in the community to understand where this website is. So it's not really accessible to people outside the community.
At the same time, I mean, we heard figures like 250,000 live stream. I mean, that's respectable. I mean, but put it in perspective. Raider, what's your record for a major like World Cup or a World Championship? You know? I can tell you, it's probably more than that, but not much more. I mean, you're
yes,
right
but
up
climbing,
there.
in the meantime, climbing has a combination between TV contracts and online distribution. I just can tell you, if you really have that figures of 250,000, go for it, because that's a lot. I mean, Joachim and myself, we know the figures from the Olympic channel. Unfortunately, we know the figures from the World Games channel. We are running by ourselves. Ooh, this is such a tough competition, and I do not mention the sports, but sometimes we have less than 100 users worldwide if we broadcast a continental or world championship. So if you have 250,000, that would be amazing, and that is a perfect basis to grow, you know.
But now, also, if you take the 250,000 and you divide it by the number of hours you're webcasting, it's not really all that massive anymore. And we just discussed this, Rainer. You can overdo it. Very often, less is more, no?
Yeah, but your media strategy have to cover both. You have to stream your events, you have to make your events available for your community and fans, and you have to promote the events in a way that the community is growing. That's one part. But the other part is pieces. To put pieces on social media, entertaining pieces from your sport, or to find a way through agencies, what was mentioned before in the panel, through agencies to come into the news shows, which gives you, it's only 30 seconds maybe, but of course it gives you a huge reach for viewers. So it's always in both directions, to manage your community and then to find the way to promote pieces of your sport in news shows and social media to attract more and more people.
And this being the digital age, I mean, it's all dominated by digital. And 2009 was that Olympic Congress in Denmark where they said, let the kids play. And I mean, to me, it's costing an effort, Facebook and all this, but to all of you, it comes natural. And it's part of the mix. And it is a mix. That's what you would suggest, no?
Exactly. I wouldn't limit it to one point. And I mean, so far we do not speak about million contracts with broadcasters. You do not have to cover exclusivity, that comes later, but now you should use all the ways of distribution you have available. You know, if you have a stream, if you have a production, and if you have integrated some new, fresh technologies, then distribute it. Or if Facebook Watch or your website or Olympic Channel, whatever you can have, on a at the moment, I would say, on a non-exclusive basis to promote the sports. And then it comes to the point that in your main markets like France or maybe in other markets, they will ask, a broadcaster will ask, that has a value for me, I would pay something for exclusivity. But that is the second step, not the first step, in my understanding.
Absolutely. I think you're the specialist here. You know exactly how it works. Rights fees, I mean, I don't think so, no?
No, it's to be honest, it's far away. Yeah, it's too early. But that you have to make available other resources, your sponsors or sometimes fees, but for rights fee, it's too early.
Yeah, these big numbers that we're seeing has mostly come from the Wing Games. And it all started from when one person got in and did a routine to music. And then it went online and it got shared everywhere on YouTube and social media. And then and that hit up, and it's just, Anne knows the numbers, it was millions and millions of people that were seeing these videos. And because of that, and it's got the Wing Games, the logo on it, and everybody sees that, now when the Wing Games is on, people know, oh, it's the Wing Games, so they can go into it. And I think it's not really the competition itself that people are tuning into, it's seeing these performances and looking at these people. And I think we should also concentrate a lot on making these performances, like what MAD do with Inca. I think we should create these things for people, for the public to connect with, rather than just focusing on the competition format and the sport. We should focus on the athletes and making these shows that people can connect to and getting those numbers up, not just for the Wing Games, but for all the competitions.
One thing needs to be said. Well, Wing Games, in my opinion, I've been looking around. I've seen two competitions actually live. One is the Wing Games. The other one was when you did the commentary of the World Championship in France. I was impressed by both. In terms of brand, in terms of the way it looks and feels and so on and so forth, I think Wing Games is pretty much top of the line. They have a very, very strong brand that I perceive as such. And I think, other than that, it's also a matter of discipline. I mean, you have the Wing Games with Monica Moyano. They have a top-notch professional doing communications, and that's key. I mean, she's getting this stuff out everywhere, and that's chapeau. Now, I saved Tom's intervention for something that I have been doing for the last 12 years, 11 years. I've worked for the World Dance Sport Federation as a communications director, first as a consultant, then a communications director. That's where we met on a number of occasions. And we are one of the federations, unlike Rangers, that spent a hell of a lot of money to really make this decisive step. And we didn't lobby, but we really came up with new formats that cost a lot in developing in terms of money and also creativity and so on and so forth. And probably in my professional life now, after skydiving, I'm proud of one thing. That's this braking campaign that we did. And I think it was a good campaign that got us the foot in the door. We got picked for the Youth Olympic Games, and we were facing major problems. I mean, bringing people from all over the world to a World Championship, 12-year, what is it, Youth Olympic Games? It's 14 to 16, I think we had. And so it was not obvious, and then between a lot of it, we came up with an idea that's thinking outside the box 100%. And Tom and I did talk a little bit about this. I think it's an idea that would be 100%, and applicable to some of your disciplines. We ran the qualifier for the Youth Olympic Games, first federation ever to do this, digitally, online. People were not competing at a location. They were recording themselves, sending in a video. We had a panel of judges. They judged it. It took a little bit of time. Logistics were pretty heavy. And I really had the good fortune for the past 25 years with a bunch of people who are doing our streams now. Come on, guys, let's bring this on. So, okay, that's them right here. We're basically 3-4 people working now for the last 25 years on different sports, some of them air sports, some of them World Game sports. We did even things for the World Games at one point. And this is what we are the most proud of. Can we roll the Breaking for Gold?
To take you closer to the Youth Olympic Games. It doesn't matter where you're from or what battles you've been in. Even if you've never battled, you can compete to qualify. Show us your best all-in-one breaking set up to 45 seconds long. This set will be your first qualification step towards the 2018 Youth Olympic Games in Buenos Aires. If you were born in 2000, 2001, or 2002 and are ready to show and prove that you belong amongst the best to break at the Buenos Aires 2018 Youth Olympic Games, this is what you do. You go to breakingforgold.com and download the Stage 1 qualifying rules. Read the rules once to make sure that you get everything right in your recording. You also select and download the breakbeat track that you intend to use for your set. Then find the location you want to record a set up to 45 seconds long with your best breaking combinations. You set up a camera or have a friend do it for you. The camera angle must be low, shot from the floor level in actual speed, showing your entire body without any zooms or pans. Your breaking set should be recorded towards the camera as if you're facing another breaker in a battle. Recorded in one continuous set up to 45 seconds, no more. Recording your set in pieces and editing are not allowed. Your breaking set must be performed to the breaks track that you have selected from the ones provided by our DJs and not to any other music. The music track must be audible in the recording, no dubbing. The judges want to see your best breaking skills in your recording. Remember, our judges will assess your overall ability based on the quality of skills that you show them in just one set. Once you have recorded your best set up to 45 seconds long, read through the rules again to avoid any mistakes in submitting the video file together with all the other elements that are required. You will need to fill out the online registration form on breakingforgold.com and to upload a scanned copy of your ID card or passport, plus a signed parental or legal guardian consent form. Once this is done, you will have taken the first steps on the road to Buenos Aires competing for a spot in the 2018 Youth Olympic Games. These are the judges that will make all the calls from stage 1 all the way through to the Youth Olympic Games. Even if you do not qualify to the next stage, you will benefit from their expert feedback on your breaking. Good luck to everybody. Hope to see you in Buenos Aires. Peace.
Thanks, guys. Honestly, it took off, but it also, they're the world's biggest procrastinator. We had a window of 100 days. We were about 10 days out. We probably had, I don't know, 100 people, 150, and they all waited for the last 2 days. And then we had all the servers breaking down, everything went wrong and this and that, but like, we got a pat on the shoulder for like thinking in this, no, not yet.
But the result was amazing,
absolutely
Roland.
amazing.
I was been there in Buenos Aires. I've seen the competitions, and I can give you one internal information from the Olympic Channel. The Youth Olympic Games were completely streamed on the Olympic Channel, and they had an internal ranking of the most popular sports. They never published it because they do not want to blame the traditional sports. Because of number 1 was 3x3 basketball. That was not a surprise because an Argentinian team was involved. But number 2 was breaking, number 3 was climbing. That means these young sports, these dynamic sports with a very attractive visibility, what is your sport as well, they are really digital and they are accepted by the young audience through this way of distribution. That should give you hope and should motivate you to go this way further.
Well, I don't have anything to do with that sport anymore, but what I'm trying to really get out of Tom's now, could this work in indoor skydiving?
For sure. I think this idea we were talking with Josh, then the tunnel could be battling against the tunnel, and we could find the best flyers, and maybe not all of them can have the opportunity to come here to Spain. Some instructors are just instructors and they can afford maybe only a refrigerator to buy. But if we would see the best of their skills, maybe there would be sponsors who would then pick up them and buy the tickets for them to come to the World Cup. Or so I think the idea is like genius, and we need to try it.
And I think also crucial, you mentioned before, hundreds of millions of views generated by a video that very heavily depended on music. And I recognized the music because I saw the movie a few days or a few weeks ahead of the Wing Games. Bohemian Rhapsody. In terms of music rights, I don't think this has been properly addressed by anybody, not by the Wing Games, not by the FAI, not by anybody.
It's been talked about a lot.
It's being talked about. I mean, but here, it's part of the culture, and he as a b-boy, obviously you would have the edge over everybody else. But as a b-boy, you have a matchup between two opponents. It's basically performed to music. The music is generally auto-generated, which means you have a disc jockey there that takes a little bit of vinyl, scratches, does this, that, and screams, and all of a sudden you have the basic hip-hop hit rhythm that goes all the way through. Music rights resolved. In terms of logistics, don't get it any cheaper than that. And then it's only a matter, would it be acceptable for your community to compete on a level like this, like based on music, based on
in a battle format that you're improvising into the music, basically? Yeah. What's the big difference between dancing and flying is how you can generate movement, and Tom's knows this as well, like versus being on the dance floor and doing the moves. In the wind, it takes a longer time to create a power and the setup for certain moves. So it's a little bit more challenging environment for that than actually being on the dance floor and doing a breakdance battle. So I think the improvisation is harder. Another huge thing is like when you think of any dancer, since they're little when they start learning dancing, that's all done to music, and they are studying music at the same time. Flyers don't do that. There's still a huge part of flyers who are performing to music, but they're not even listening to the music, or it's just a background music. And now if we are going to have people battling where the music plays such a huge role, I feel like our skill level, the skill level that we're showing, is doing this. So we need to grow with the music, and we need to teach people about the music before we can have music playing such a huge part in our sport.
But just to kind of add this, it's a comment that breaking made it, and Latin and standard didn't make it, has a lot to do with this improvisation. You go out there, show your stuff, you throw it down, that's what they call it now, throw down your routine. And all the other ones, I mean, they take the more standard approach, listen to the music, grow with it, and that's part of the culture, of the breaking culture. I mean, these guys, this sport got started. It's not a sport, it's an art, it's a culture.
Yeah, so
in New York.
So I think it's more attractive because it's live. It's not the plastic. It's not something you create 2 years ago. You were practicing the routine and then you show it. Like it's not alive. But if it's gonna be improvisation with the music, it's gonna be harder. It's gonna take time for sure to catch up. But it's gonna be like eye-catching. Like you wanna see how the guy improvised because it's not something you prepared. It's you go there and then actually like it's alive. Like you wanna see it, and it's not something. I think it's just perfect.
It definitely has a different
it's
energy
radical.
for sure.
It's radical. I guarantee you that. And it was too radical for the World Dance Sport Federation almost really imploded because two cultures that are not really 100% compatible had problems.
There's also one little detail when the difference between flying and dancing is that in a wind tunnel, you don't hear stuff so well. So to hear your music while you fly, you need to have in-ear pieces, which at the moment, nobody really wants to look into it, but I'm pretty sure that it's really not doing any good to anybody's audition, and especially you've got a bunch of kids flying to music from a very early age with really loud stuff, because I've flown with them, like they need to be loud for you to hear it over the wind, and now there's like, are we damaging kids audition for the sake of creating something visually cool. Like we have some technical and I dare to say some medical issue to solve before we start pushing this on the world stage, I think. Otherwise it's going to clash back at us.
Yeah, every competition there's technical issues with the music as well. Like people are jumping in the tunnel, their music is not playing. So that's a huge thing that we need to work on. So.
I think it's technical side and you can resolve it. But still, then in that case, if we fly to the music, it's gonna be more personality coming out of every athlete, and that's something that I'm missing. And we were talking about this in US that's what we miss in competitions. That now everyone's kind of the same, and we miss that it's kind of going the same path and nothing changes. So I think that would bring the fresh breeze in the sport.
I find this really interesting, your discussion, because I'm pretty sure that that's what you have to expect for the future. On the one hand, you want to modernize your sport through your discussion with event organizers or marketers. They want to be cool, music, whatever, independently from the music. Maybe they have other stuff. On the other hand, you don't have to touch the core of a sport. That's my understanding if I work with federations. So you have to define what is the core of our sport. Take the example of sports climbing. I mean, the main driver for the media was speed climbing, what we've seen before, like the spiders. But if you talk with the community of climbing, they say,
they hate it.
This is not really climbing. We are boulders, or lead is traditional climbing. But the main driver was the modern one. So it was a huge internal discussion. That's what I want to say, and that you are facing this discussion, I'm pretty sure.
Okay, thank you very, very much. You're concluding. I really would like you to make the final statement after having seen a little bit of Wing Games yesterday. No, you. No. We really have to take advantage of you. You have seen the Wing Games yesterday. You have probably seen half an hour in total. Do you like what you see?
Yes, of course, I did, definitely. And I said, there's no doubt that you have a value in your sport. What I would like to suggest is be realistic, don't dream too much, and go step by step. And then you will find the direction. But evaluate your sport, evaluate the situation where you are now, and then go step by step, not only follow your dreams.
I think that's a nice remark to conclude. And what I'd like to do now is I've seen this by chance this year. You remember a Paralympian? She committed suicide after she had a muscular disease, and before she competed at the highest level. She was, I think, 3 times gold medal winner in Paralympic Games, and she couldn't do it anymore because of that disease. And you know what sport she picked to continue? She said, "So I don't fall into the hole." Indoor skydiving. And then it was can we show video number 3? It's bad quality, but I think this was really also something that, yeah, it's a piece done by the BBC, and
I will do the indoor skydiving. It's a really, really lovely experience. I had to quit with my top sports, and I was very scared for a deep black hole, but this feels so great, and I'm so happy that I find another sport. You see your wheelchair standing outside and you are flying like a bird. So, yeah, it's really an awesome feeling.
thank you very much. It gives me the shivers. Did you see this? Did you notice? I mean, she was really an athlete, and it helped her. And I think this was a very productive exchange we had. Thank you very much for really
Thank you for
contributing your tremendous expertise. I'm dead certain we're going to see another record broadcast coming out of Birmingham. I'm going to be there. Where is I'm going to be there? Yes. And really, I think this was great in terms of our. Did we achieve anything? Probably not. But like we gave a few impulses, and a lot of times people were mentioning thinking outside of the box. Sometimes you have to do that, and we could have just one more discipline. It doesn't really matter. It could be this breaking. No. All right. On this note, thank you very much for being with us here today. You were a great audience. Tomorrow the food is going to be warm. They promised me. I apologize for that. We're going to start at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. All our panelists, basically, as soon as we're done here, we're going to go to a restaurant all together. It's the only way you're going to eat here in town. We hired the entire restaurant. And we're going to eat at a very early Spanish hour, I think. We're going to have some snacks first, and then at 7 o'clock we're going to eat. And,
7 o'clock in Spain, this is in the afternoon.
I mean, I haven't had anything since 5 o'clock this morning.
He knows people.
So. Yeah. All right, thank you very much, and we'll see you tomorrow. Thank you. Herzlichen Dank, ehrlich, das war